once in a while. Okay. Bigots assembles, it's the man in charge, yeah. One of the keys to life is having someone call you a racist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic, whatever, and be okay with it. That's very hard for a lot of people to do. It's like, I gotta be viewed as this great person in society. No, with your close family and friends, of course, but in terms of the world, here's a good piece of advice. Don't care so much what other people think about you. Oh, poor guy. My liberal friend, who I've talked to at least 10 times, called into the line. I made a video late last night about it. Maybe it was even early this morning about it. He said my name and they went berserk. They went crazy. Barely let him talk. Oh yeah, I forgot xenophobe. Yeah. I think people who lean left are extremely xenophobic against white people from European nations. But yeah, it just boggles my mind of how he was treated just merely for saying that my technique, my rhetoric, the way I interact with people who come on my live streams is better than the way they do it. Oh, they did not like that. They did not like that. I'm convinced that if you're crazy, you're going to be a progressive more likely than not. If you have a mental illness, you're going to be more likely a progressive than not. If you're unmarried and have no kids, you're more likely to progressive than not. The people who actually earn the money in this country and build things, protect things, are men. Middle-aged men. And a lot of them look like me. The ones that are needy, have their hands out, are the people I just described. But I'm here to take your questions. How does that make you feel? If you know that you're one of the burdens of society financially, that you need help. I was raised to think, it's a good thing to not need help from others, to be independent, self-sufficient. Where has that gone away? Does that no longer exist? Yeah, I had a haircut. Thanks, Wexican, for asking. Wexican, you said you had a bunch of questions for me. Start asking, just random. Doug's life goal is to be called a bigot. You know what really bothers some people is when they call you a bigot, racist, homophobe, and they see it doesn't impact you. In fact, that you kind of like it. That infuriates them even more. Their mental anguish goes through the roof. You're supposed to be offended. I was watching a channel called Nick Freitas. He's a Christian, but he's conservative. He wasn't there, but in this live stream. But they brought up this chart. I'm not sure why it's white liberal and white conservative. I think it goes to any color of skin shade. But yeah, if you lean progressive, woke, liberal, whatever you want to call it, you're more likely to suffer from emotional mental illness, mental health problems, serious mental health problems. These are from different organizations. And they get consistent results. Females are more crazy than males, and white liberal or liberals, progressives are more crazy than conservatives. Not only are they more crazy, they're just less nice. And I think my liberal friend found out when he went on the line the other day, firsthand. If you want to be seen as a nice person, you're with the conservative group. Oh, Doug, but I'm saying in general. Of course, there's exceptions. When are you going to start your own financial advice channel? Right now, Stephanie. Here's some financial advice. Save your money. Don't buy crap that you're not going to care about 5 years and it's going to sit in your garage. Don't think just because you're 28 years old you deserve a house. No, you don't deserve a house. By the way, that $25,000 house incentive thing, have people forgotten the law of supply and demand? Do you realize that when you increase the demand of a product, it raises the price? So if you start giving out $25,000 incentives, like it goes against inflation. It just completely, if you want to lower inflation, you do not do that. If you want to lower prices of things in general, everything, you need a recession or a depression. The only other option is try to just lower the rate of increase, inflation, and then increase your salaries. Here's another interesting thing. The law of supply and demand also works when it comes to people. The more workers you have, the lower the wages. The higher the demand for labor and the lower the supply of labor, the higher the wages. It kind of works. So if you want to cause inflation in wages to surpass the inflation in goods and services, less immigration. Hey, Chad Tony, another liberal friend of mine. You know, like Trump, the well-known, nice, and very conservative person. I actually think Trump is a pretty nice guy. If you don't believe me, ask the union members in Pennsylvania and other states, Michigan. Ask those blue-collar workers in unions, is Trump a nice guy? And you can go back to the 26th election and now, and they'll tell you, at least Trump listens to us and understands where we're coming from. What Trump's problem is that he's a politician who is a little bit like me, and that he enjoys getting a rise out of people, and he finds it so easy to do it. So, you know, he has no problem calling a person like Rosie O'Donnell fat and stupid or whatever. You can decrease prices through improved technology as well. Yeah, good point, New Humanist. Thanks for the donation, American Prot. Will you broach the urban planning topic today? No, probably not. Sounds like an incredibly boring topic to me. My open mind, but thanks for the $2. I appreciate it. Why do most people outside the U.S. wonder how anyone inside the U.S. support Trump? I actually think that's false. I think there's a lot of people in Europe who understand precisely why people would vote for Trump. See ya, Archbishop. Before you go out, make sure you take off your purple robe. Mexican asks, when do you think the interests of the individual outweigh the collective or vice versa? When do you think the interests of an individual outweigh the collective? Well, when it comes to things like murder and rape. Well, no, that goes with the collective as well. So I'm not sure if I understand your question. Are your children liberal or conservative? Conservative. They don't have the free will to choose. What are you talking about, man in charge? I'm the man of the house. I'm the father. My kids will be conservative. Isn't that how it works? Actually, I just live my life, answer their questions, and they be what they be. Where in the law of supply and demand can the producer arbitrarily raise prices whenever they want and completely ignore market equilibrium? Street Disciple. See, what happens is, if you are in a market that has competitors and you raise your prices and your competitor can provide the identical product or appropriate substitute for a lower price, all else equal, most reasonable, rational human beings will take the lower priced one. Not always, by the way. I'm shopping for some medical procedures right now, and I wonder how many people do this. I actually call up a whole bunch of places and I tell them, I'm shopping for your medical procedure. What does it cost? What does that cost? What does that cost? What does that cost? What does it cost if I pay cash? What does it cost if I use my insurance? I wonder how many people do that. If you don't do that, you should start doing that. Anytime your doctor says, go here to get this and this and this done, question it. Say, what if I go there instead? Is it cheaper? This is the problem with insurance. It's like, well, I don't even have to think. I just go do what I'm told. If you have to start paying things with your own money, you start asking these questions. Does my ad blocker on YouTube cost you money by blocking ads? Of course, Uberscheiser. Of course it costs me money. But that's okay. For you, free of charge. The New Humanist. Oh, I should put up the link, right, if people want to call in. The New Humanist. What can you say to me as a woke progressive in Missouri to feel better about the probable Trump presidency? I actually don't mind if you have mental anguish. It doesn't bother me none. New Humanist. You have the power and the control of your emotional and mental anguish. It's your decision if you want to be upset about if Trump wins. That's totally up to you. But if you were to force me to coddle you and reassure you, I would say that things are never as bad as it seems and nor never as good as it seems. Things tend to average out. So all the worst fears that you might have from a Trump presidency is probably not going to happen. All the great things that you might imagine from the Harris presidency, probably not going to happen. Any corrupt actor or actors can manipulate prices against market forces with the lack of transparency and unfair. Oh my goodness, honestly, atheists. If you have a competition, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 1,000 competitors in a market, and you have one corrupt actor, first of all, there should be laws depending on the type of corruption, but reasonable, rational human beings, if they find out about this, which they eventually will, that competitor will probably cease doing business.
Fine.
Hi.
Hey, so I think you are a NIMBY, if I recall correctly. You've espoused some NIMBY takes. Is that right?
What's a NIMBY?
Not in my backyard. So like someone that would oppose like public housing or any sort of high-rise developments in their neighborhood.
Am I against high-rise? I live in a gated community because I have a job.
Okay.
So that's so your hypothetical would never happen. But if it were to happen, would I be against it? Maybe. Depends on the situation.
Let's say they wanted to build some high-rise apartments right outside your gated community.
Right now, my initial response would be, I don't care. Because odds are I won't see it.
Okay, so I guess you're not a NIMBY. So why aren't you advocating that we build more housing? Because that'll actually decrease the value of your house.
Who said I didn't? Who said I didn't? Or did?
Well, I never see you advocating for it.
You want me to advocate for what? More housing?
For YIMBYism
What
and
I
less restrictions.
what I tend to advocate for is, let's say, less regulation or restrictions to make it easier to build more
Yeah,
housing. Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
Then you're YIMBY then.
fine.
So you don't think homeowners should have any say if I want to build something in the neighborhood? They shouldn't have any say.
So, look, you see what you just did? You remind me of that interview with Jordan Peterson and that blonde woman. You ask one question, and and then you ask the second question that's sort of related but not really. So you think blah 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 blah, based on what the one answer. Okay, so that's your second question again.
Yeah. So should homeowners have any say if I want to build anything in their neighborhood? They shouldn't have any say because it's not their property.
It depends. Yeah, if they're not in a homeowners association, then no, they don't. But they can still vote in their municipal elections with the people who do have the power to make these decisions. So they do have some say.
Well, who says you have the right to be in a homeowner association?
No one. That's your
Right.
choice. Yeah.
Right.
But I'm talking about the municipality. The mayors, the city council, they make these decisions, and so you can vote them in or out if you don't like something.
Well, let me push back on your response that you wouldn't care if they built more high density housing, because I'm assuming since you're a homeowner, the majority of your wealth is actually tied up in your home.
No. Well.
No, or is any portion of your wealth tied up into your home?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, right. So if they did decrease the demand for housing, then your net worth would go down.
I don't care.
So you're willing to sacrifice yourself for the better for the country.
It's like the value of my home is me living in it. So the value of your home only matters if you're going to sell it.
Right. So why are so many Americans so obsessed with that number of the value of their home?
Oh, because they spend too much. They spend more than they earn, and so they have to finance against it.
Right. Right. All right, Doug. Well, good talking to you.
Okay, thanks for calling in. Notice how you give very short, simple answers. And they go, oh, that makes sense. Bye. I'm offended by the term homeowner. I'm a hetero owner. Yeah. How do you call in? There's a link on the top of the chat. If you're on your mobile device, you probably, and you can't see the link, it's because you haven't, you typed. You got to see it. You have to. The strategy to financial success nowadays for young people is live at home as long as possible. Save up $100,000 before you even leave home. If you can save up $100,000, you're well on your way to having a financial freedom, independence. And once you have financial freedom and independence, you're more likely to vote Republican, by the way. But in order for that to work, your parents are going to have to allow that. So don't be a bratty, spoiled little kid. Do your chores. Get a job. You're more likely to get a job at 18 than you are at 25. I just saw something. Hey, Simon, I'll let you in soon. The Gen Zers are being fired left and right because of attitude problems, don't know what work is. My kids are going to have such a huge advantage in life. Hi, Simon.
Oh, hello.
How are you today?
Hold on. Just trying to get my AirPods to work here.
AirPods. I don't like sticking things in my ears. I like it over.
They're not going to work. Looks like. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. I'll turn you up
Great.
a bit. The other guy was too loud. You're a little bit quiet.
Sorry. I'm just going to try this one more time. Still no.
Are you the Simon who typed in the chat who said, can we ask any question?
That was it, yeah.
Oh, now your audio sounds different.
Great. Yeah, good. Sounds better for me. Yeah, I've heard a few things on the show. It's really, really cool. I'm myself from fundamentalist religious background, left.
Are you
few
bitter?
years ago. No, not at all.
Good.
Not at all. but I don't find too many.
Conservative atheists.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So from one fellow conservative atheist to another, I was wondering your opinion. We're asking any questions here? Anything?
Yeah. Go
We can
ahead.
take the topic anywhere.
Yeah.
Abortion. What's your position on that?
Abortion's bad. Um, I would
Why?
say because it's a potential life, a potential. Well, not a potential. It's a human life that has the potential
Yeah.
to be something wonderful or something terrible. But it
Yeah.
so it's bad because it does
But the
have.
potential is the potential. The destroying of the potential is what's the negative there.
Yeah, it's sort of like. Have you seen the Bill Burr comic sketch of if I was to put a bunch of ingredients in a pan, like for a birthday cake? Let's say it's
Yes.
my
Yeah.
birthday. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was a cake. Well, it was gonna be a cake, but you
Yeah.
ruined it. Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
bad to take the ingredients of a cake that's in the oven, but it hasn't become a
Hmm.
cake yet, and just pull it out and throw it on the floor.
I got that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got that. Um, but so this one's the lines get a little bit blurred here because I think everyone in their right mind would agree that it's wrong at a point. Like ninth month is obviously a crime.
Well, hang on. Before we talk about wrong and right, I would say who
Yeah.
cares about the wrong and the right part? I'm a pragmatist mostly, and I'm a
Well,
little
I
bit
mean, you
virtual.
care about the wrong and the right because you were just saying
No, no, I
it's
do,
wrong to remove the.
but when I'm saying when we have difference in opinion
Yeah.
about whether something's wrong or right, what really we're talking about, to be more
Mhm.
specific, is policy, whether it should be illegal or legal, whether there should be
Oh
punishments
no,
or
that's
not.
that's specifically not what I'm asking. I understand the difference of the question. I don't like to do drugs, but I don't think they should be illegal. Um, I get the difference of the question, but I'm asking you your personal opinion
Yeah, my personal
on
opinion
abortion.
is that it's
Yeah.
bad, it's wrong, but yeah, I'll
Okay,
leave it at
but
that.
even like the first like the day after pill, what do you think about that?
Again,
And I'm
I would say it shows a lack of it. The only reason one would take a day after pill is because they made a mistake. Stop making mistakes.
and what was the mistake?
That they had unprotected sex, or they had only one version of protected sex, and it
Yeah.
failed. They didn't like. Sure, there's a small percentage chance that if you have two or more forms of protection, that you can still get pregnant.
Yeah.
But there's other ways to have sex other than vaginally.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Abortion is
So
mostly
like
for
are you
stupid people.
I agree, careless people, people who made a mistake, etc. Like I agree with you.
Mostly,
However, I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep pushing this here. So are you against condoms?
no.
But that ruins the potential of life in the same way that the day after pill does.
Yep.
Um, so it's nothing to do with the potential, it's the destroying of the ingredients in the oven, even that you like. So a condom would eliminate the potential of a potential life or lives from happening in the same way. So I don't see that as an argument.
Okay.
Would you agree?
No,
Why?
because what we're talking about is in order to have life, human life,
Mhm.
and we're talking about condoms that prevents the sperm from going to an egg. There's
But it
where
doesn't just it doesn't it prevents the potential as well. So this is why I don't like I'm exploring this topic as a genuine I'm uncertain. I'm
why are you
certain about
exploring this topic? Like from
well because
because remember we're
it's
not talking about laws or anything. You're talking it from a moral point of view. Well, what's the interest in this?
well it's because I'm genuinely I think it's an interesting topic.
Why?
And I think it's very what's the word? It's like polarized. I find conservatives and liberals alike to be at some point in their argumentation hypocritical. Um, so when
Okay,
conservatives
everybody's
say,
hypocritical about something once in a
well, and
while.
I think, well, I just found a little bit of yours, and there we go. That's why I'm fascinated by the conversation. So it's
Why?
not the potential, because the condoms ruin the potential as well, and so does the pill, and so does every other contraceptive.
Well, so is having any kids at all. I mean, or not choosing not
Great.
to have
So
any
it's not
kids.
great. So it's nothing to do with the potential of, it is genuinely the clump of cells that you want to protect.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So day after pill, you wouldn't do condoms, fine, but abortion, just a blanket no, not even
I'm okay with
day
people
after pill.
taking the day after pill.
Mhm.
I would just say I would just judge them as being, yeah, you made a mistake.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they did, and I'm not even advocating for it, nor have I, or asked
And
anyone
they're
to
probably
use
going
it.
to feel really bad for a week or two. I hear that pills
Uh,
like has
do you
some
mean
side
ill
effects.
or guilty? Yeah, well, I would imagine so. It's probably very unnatural, but okay. So you would have, as the atheist
I
conservative
know
that
this
you
is
are, you would.
interesting to you, but it's not interesting to me. Is there something else you want to talk about or no?
No, it's just that one. It was genuinely just that one.
I still want to know why you're so interested in this. That's what interests me. Why it interests you.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you. Because I'm a very conservative person myself,
Yeah.
and it came from a place of just a blanket no. But there was a lot of things that were a blanket no since I left the faith, and I'm having to rewire a lot of my morals. And this one, it was genuinely a little bit unclear. Um,
Why
and I
not
was
just be
curious
like
about
me
your
and
opinion.
say between 10 and 15 weeks, there should be no legal repercussions. But after that, then we start looking at potentially making it illegal, except for certain exceptions. Why not just be like that? Like most
That's
of the
probably what I
world.
would. That's probably what I would be. But I
Okay,
was
so
curious about
then
how. I was
what's.
curious about how conservative you would be. Like, and the argument is always used about the potential, the potential, the potential, and I find that to be like not really that strong of an argument.
Do you think an embryo has value?
As an embryo, yeah.
Why?
Um, maybe I would say actually no, not a whole lot of value
Oh,
actually.
you said yes
Yeah.
and you went to no very quickly. Why?
Well, I was about to use the P word,
Yeah,
potential.
see? You and I are not much that we're not that different, Simon. Embryos
Yeah,
have value because of what they can become.
but same with sperm and eggs, which have not joined yet.
Right, but
They
we
have the
put a
same
line in the
potential.
sand because we haven't formed. You can't form a human from sperm alone. You can't form a human from eggs alone.
So what?
So that's that line in the sand that once you've crossed and you've conjoined the two,
Okay.
then we can
Yeah.
actually achieve that potential. You can't do that with just
Mhm.
sperm.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's not a hard line in the sand that I draw. Um,
But
but I agree
I
with
still
you.
don't
I agree
understand
with
why.
you. I
I
agree
want to
with you
get.
90%. Like I've been listening to the channel for a lovely little long time now, very quietly, and I've been picking around trying to find something that you and I could possibly disagree on. Um, and this was the best I could come up with.
Okay, fair enough.
So you see, I was going for the high score here. But that's the best I could do. I came from a Jehovah's Witness background and I left, and I'm really
Oh, really?
excited
My
about that.
daughter
Yeah.
asked. We went for a walk. My daughter asked about Jehovah Witnesses, and she asked me a question I didn't know the answer to.
Oh, too bad, because I could
And
give it to you now.
whoa, what was it? Okay, Jehovah Witnesses don't do blood transfusions, right?
That's right. Yeah,
And they don't believe in hell.
that's
And
correct.
but she asked me something. Oh, they're Unitarians, right? Jesus is not God.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I told her. Yeah, I think that was what she asked me. So I was right. Yeah, I think I know more about Mormons than I do Jehovah Witnesses.
Very similar. Just
Would you
lots of
say the
different names in between.
majority of Jehovah Witnesses are good people?
Yeah, I would say the majority of people that I know are good people, but
Yeah.
of course the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses are good people. Of course they are. I don't have any problems with the people. I have massive problems with what's taught and when things are inaccurate. Um, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't take criticism too well.
Well,
So,
most people don't, but anyhow. Thanks for calling in, Simon, and I'm glad
all right, man.
you tried at least to find something we disagree on.
I'll keep searching.
Uh, sorry, you have to wait, Nathan and Board Gourd, because my favorite liberal is here.
I'm going to say a very bad word. Are you ready for the bad word?
Yeah, I am. I know what you're going to say.
Jimmy Snow.
Jimmy Snow.
No, PineCreek. No, do you want me to start or do you want you to start? Because I think we have a little bit to talk about. If you want to.
Yeah, let me set the page for people who might not know what's going on. You have called into this show at least how many times? 10, 15? Like the
5 or
political
6,
channel
yeah.
member you started calling in?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, maybe 10. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
10.
maybe 10. Okay. And I would say almost every interaction we've had has been civil, cordial, fun. Of course, we've had disagreements, but would you agree with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for the people who don't know, was it yesterday you called into the line?
I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay, a couple days ago. And you mentioned, you uttered my name and said the word PineCreek in relation to a positive thing and how I do things, how I converse with people. And they went ballistic. They went crazy.
Well, yeah, and to set the stage, well, thank you. You did set the stage, and now to act on the stage. My point was, let me say this, and I'll say this flat out, so they can clip this and listen to this. But I do think you have harmful views. I think you have views that are bad, that I disagree with. I think you've done things that I disagree with, and I think you can take that. You can hear me say those things, and we'll continue to have a conversation. And they kind of went straight.
Well, let me tell you this, DLF. I mean,
no.
I'm going to give you 60 seconds. No, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to finish up here, and then you're gone, okay?
I actually checked, and it was 25 or 26 seconds. I did time it afterwards to see, did they give me... Of course, they were talking over me when I was trying... Anyways, point being, I thought of an analogy, because a great man once taught in parables. And what I would say is, you have to... If you want to help your kids drive a car, you have to be in the car with them. And your kids have to respect you. So
Yeah.
if I'm trying to change someone's views, I'm trying to nudge them. I'm trying to, they have the wheel. You can't just grab the wheel or they're going to get angry. And if you're off on the road and you're in another car and you're yelling at them, people just get mad at you when you try to change their views. So I think it's Daryl Davis. Have you ever heard of that guy who spoke
yeah.
with? Yeah. He went out there and spoke to people he vehemently disagreed with.
A black guy, African-American, who became friends with KKK members.
And I see him as a shining example of, there are people with bad views. Like, my dad voted for Trump in 2016. I hate to tell you, Doug, he voted Biden. I got him voting Harris this time too. I'm sorry. But not that I disagree with my dad. And I spoke to him about this, told him what I value, asked him what he values. And we came to the agreement, or he thought it might be in his best interest to not vote for Trump anymore. So you have to have a relationship with someone. You have to respect their reasoning, and then you have to explain to them your reasoning. And this is what I was getting towards. And I think you have respect for me, right?
Yeah,
Other than my
yeah.
poker skills?
I think you are a stable human being, unlike Jimmy Snow.
I think sometimes people can get high on their own community, and they let the
Yes.
community tell them they're so great. And there was a comment, I'd love it if you went through, I looked at the comments on the videos, and there was a comment before you put up your video of someone saying exactly my point, that you have to meet people where they're at. You have to then build a relationship with them. And then you have to kind of show them maybe why what they value is more in line with
Yeah.
how you go about living your
You
world.
and I are totally agreed on this, but I got to ask you this.
Go ahead.
Knowing and experiencing how they treated you there, doesn't that make you want to be on my team?
No, it makes me mad at my team. I'm not leaving my team. I'm sorry, Doug. I'm still progressive liberal, and I'm gonna. And here's what Jimmy and Forrest, and I have more respect for Forrest than Jimmy still, but what I had my point. Let me restate it again. I had made statements that atheists are bad at debating. Atheists are bad at convincing people, and I have said things like, I don't know if I ever said all, but I'm
I don't
seeing
think
it
you did.
more. Yeah, I don't think I did either. And that's the things I wanted to clarify, and you're letting me clarify here. So thank you for letting me speak, Doug. Thank you for letting me talk.
That's what I do.
Anyway, yeah. But
Because I like people.
what's that thing from SNL? I'm good. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people love me.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you remind me of that. But I think you have to actually, read books like How to Convince People. There's a book on, how to convince people. You have to learn how to be good at talking with people you disagree with. And that's why I talk to you. I disagree with you. And I think maybe one of these days I might convince you to change your mind on a few things. Maybe.
Did you see the video
Maybe.
I made where I said that Democrats are not my people?
Okay.
Did you see that video?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay.
It didn't
I think I
involve
made a
me.
short on it, but I truly believe that. And I'm not tribalistic, but I'm just talking in a very general sense. I'm not needy. I'm not dependent. I'm not crazy. Honest, I'm not. My mother had me tested. Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. And so I'm married. I have kids. Upper middle class. Like I don't think there's anything the Democratic Party could offer me or appeal to me, especially if they're the party of paying your fair share.
But literally about everything you said about yourself applies to me. So why do I like the Democrats?
Probably because you're gay.
Doug, you believe that wholeheartedly. You really believe that?
I have data to back that up.
Okay, what's the data?
Okay, hang on.
I
actually knew you were going to call.
Did Myron send you this data?
No, from the Pew.
From the Pew.
Pew
Okay,
poll.
go ahead.
Okay, from Pew poll. What's the date on this? If you're a straight man, 55% vote for Republicans, 43 Democrat. But if you're gay, 17% vote for Republican, 83% vote for Democrat. If you're a gay man, 83% chance you're going to vote Democrat. Why is this? My guess is because of things like gay marriage, maybe some other issues.
But you're reversing the priors, Doug. The prior would be with the knowledge that I'm Democrat, what's the probability I'm straight? You're reversing it. You're going with the knowledge someone's gay, what's the probability they vote Democrat?
But you ask, why is it that you are similar to me in so many ways? The only difference between me and you is I think you are gay and I am straight. You are gay.
I can tell you. I can tell you the difference, though. I think I know.
Am I right? Are you gay? There's nothing wrong with it.
I'll say this because I always say this when people ask. I'll say it doesn't matter. But I think
See,
I know the difference.
That means you are.
Well, I'll let you get to digital gnosis here in a moment, but I think I know the difference between you and me. I really think I know the difference.
What's the difference? And
tell me if I'm wrong about this. And you even mentioned it.
You're quiet for me. Hang on a second.
Okay. I'm speaking loudly. Can you hear me better? I'm speaking loudly.
Is he quiet to everybody? Because this is important what he's about to say. I want to make sure you're heard. I think
it shows me going about halfway up the microphone, so they probably can hear me, I think.
Okay,
so I think you value money a lot. You value monetary success, you value wealth, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think you're very much concerned about your retirement, the future you provide for your kids, and you look at your investments and your income and your bank accounts a lot. Am I wrong? Can you hear me?
No, you're not wrong. I do value money but when I say money and when you say money, I'm not thinking the actual pieces of paper.
Yeah,
it's what it represents.
It represents security and freedom and the ability to.
And not only that, it represents value to society. So, and of course, this is not a direct correlation, but there is a correlation. If people are if you have a service or a good that people are willing to pay for, and it causes you to be financially independent, what society is saying is you are valued.
And I think what I value, and you said it, I'm a touchy-feely person, so I value, people being happy. I value people having opportunities. And there is a relationship with money to that, but I would rather people feel happy and have opportunities than I care about my own wealth.
That's a good point. I think that's where we're different because I'm okay with a little bit of mental anguish in people. Like even my own happiness, I'm okay with suppressing or lowering or giving up if it means a better life for my family. Do you know how many trips I've been on to Disneyland with my kids and had to smile and go through all that crap just to provide this happiness for my children? This is what being a parent is. And this is probably another big difference between you and me.
Mhm.
I'm a dad. You're not, right?
Kind of. You
You
can
adopted?
mull over it. You can figure that one out.
Kind of.
Kinda.
How can you kind of be a dad? Oh, you're living with a man who has kids.
Oh, wait. But I want to go back to what you previously said. And
Did I
I
hit
do
it?
want you to I do want you to get to digital gnosis. So I think you're right about we can't always be in perpetual happiness. I do agree with that. We need tough times to build us up. We need to go through
Yes.
hardships to be a better person. But it's not that, someone might have to endure a hardship that I don't like. I don't like seeing the world set up in an unfair way, such that maybe there's an LGBT kid out there who's being discriminated against unfairly. Like, it is not fair that there are children who are bullied so much that they self harm. That is not something good about the world. That is not something we need in the world. Now, there is going to be hard times for kids. They are going to go through bullying. But what we see right there is not something
But I'm against that
productive.
too.
Yes,
So
yes, and I'm glad you said that. They should clip that. So then we have to look at what we do as individuals and if what we say or do can cause harm. And I do want to say this. They threw at me, has Pine Creek Pine Creek ever built bridges with people who are trans? And you have.
I have.
You have.
And
I
you
remember
mentioned
there
that,
was
although you weren't very forceful and you didn't. I mean,
Well, they kept talking over me.
Yeah.
I would say something and then they'd jump right on it. And you're letting me speak a lot more. I'm actually talking over you, but you go ahead.
yeah, like I've had, I don't know, at least half a dozen conversations with trans people, and I would say I can only think of one that didn't really go well, but even that one I think went well. And this is the problem people like Jimmy Snow have. The problem is that even though I can disagree with people, I can have a conversation with them. And they can't. If they think I'm not 100% in their tribe and say one little thing against the trans community, I mean, pariah, bigot, homophobe.
You think
transphobe.
when I think you've said some transphobic stuff, I'll say that on here too.
Like what?
But I think when we get to the issues of like, what is a woman, what is a man, I think you've said things there. Like, we could rehash this if you want, but
Okay, yeah, but basically, trans women are not real women, trans men are not real men.
I'd say that's transphobic.
Yeah,
So
and I would say, who cares if it is or not?
I'd say that could then cause harm to individuals.
Yeah, and I think this is the difference between you and me is this assessment of risk. Like, if me saying this out loud, trans women are not real women. If you can show me a direct causal link of some kid in Missouri bullying someone because they heard me say it, and it was only because they heard me say it. Like, oftentimes these causal interactions are basically, well, Doug, you're aiding to the general milieu of society. What I'm saying is that a real woman to me is a biological woman. So trans women are not real women.
I think when we look at how harm is done, it's like literally if somebody, hits you with a bat, that's harm.
Right.
And harm can be done, like one of my friends had a grandparent who was pretty racist. And I had never really heard certain words till I met this grandparent. And I'm kind of happy that I didn't hear them till later in life, not too late, like teenage years. But I wasn't really exposed to this because in my family, we didn't use those words. And I think hearing those words would have maybe, like, I realized how bad they were when I heard them at a later age and heard them used harmful towards individuals. He was talking ill about people. And I kind of recognized it at that point. But if I had been brought up around that, I think I wouldn't have recognized it. So you're wondering what harm would that cause? I think the way in which I heard him lumping in all people in certain ways of that group, I think that causes a negative stereotype and causes resentment and out-group behavior or in-group, out-group behavior. But you go ahead.
Like, for example, like calling me a bigot and a homophobe and all that.
Well, but have I ever said that to you? I said
No, I'm talking about like Jimmy Snow. Like, so basically from their perspective, I'm outside their tribe. So then it's justified. to
and I think
spew hate speech towards me.
well,
But
and
if
mhm.
yeah,
Good.
but if I do it to their tribe, they view it as, so what do they call it? The paradox of something.
Paradox of tolerance paradox.
Yeah, the paradox of tolerance, which
I
is
think
basically another way of saying we're going to live with the contradiction.
I think what's better to do, and maybe I'm wrong because maybe my view's wrong, but like you've taken everything I've said to you today. I've said I think what you said is transphobic, and I didn't call you a transphobe. I think there's gradients in all this, and I think it's harmful what you said, and I can tell you that. And I think it's because I'm your quote unquote liberal friend, and you do owe me a gift basket or some TGI Fridays cards.
Yeah.
Man, they were really like, he put you up to this, didn't he? Oh, he's a concern troll. I'm like, no, I'm just a person who's had many decent conversations with people, and I know I've changed people's minds.
Let me tell you where I'm coming from and why I might be different than you and the Jimmy Snows or the Forrest of the world, is because I truly think my parents raised me well, and they gave me a strong sense of identity. I know who I am, and so I cannot relate to weaker people who, like, I can cognitively, think about it and say, okay, I can understand it. But from a visceral level, I do not get it. If someone calls one of my children a bad name, a bad word, whatever, I have trained my children to expect it and to realize they're strangers to me and it really doesn't matter. And my mom, dad, uncles, aunts, whatever, love me and I'm okay. And I can, on an intellectual level, understand that a lot of people don't have that. And it's sad and tragic that they weren't raised properly in a stable two-parent home where they were taught a sense of identity. But I was. And so these things I cannot, on a visceral level, cannot relate to. I say to a trans person, well, I don't view you as a real woman or a real man. That hurts them in such a level that, well, it's obvious that they struggle with identity because they do.
Well, real quick on that. I don't know how, I don't have their experience, but I will say this. Let's go back to the grandfather example I mentioned. If he was a hiring manager at a company that one of your children applied to, I imagine, knowing you and your wife, he might be less likely to hire your children. And I don't know how you say to your children, hey, when you go out to get a job, there might be people in the world who look at the color of your skin and say, I'm not hiring this person. I mean,
okay, if that happened to
harm.
my kids, for those of you who don't know, my kids are mocha colored. So if that happened to my kids, the first thing I would say to them, well, maybe you said something stupid during the interview. The first thought that should be in my kid's head is not racism. It's something they did wrong. That should be the go-to. Blame yourself first. That's your go-to. And a lot of people are not raised that way. A lot of people, I'm a victim. It's never my fault. But now in a legitimate case where someone discriminates against my kids merely because of their skin color, that's illegal. And they can press charges. Or let the world know and let that company suffer the consequences.
And gosh, I'll tell you, the court system is not fun because bringing.
Well, I got a
charges
platform. I could help destroy them.
Well, I'm really glad for your time. It's always an interesting conversation. I'll say that, and I'm glad we can disagree. And then thank you so much for letting me let me give you my full thesis that they didn't let me say. Can I end with that? Because I really wish I'd just been able to. Okay. So what I really wish I had said to them, because everyone's like, he didn't say anything. I'm like, well, yeah, I got like 10 seconds here and there. We really have to get to know people. You have to go and speak to people. The othering of people doesn't work. Even the othering of Jimmy Snow. So to Jimmy Snow and Forrest, you have to know the person you're talking to. And most people in this world want the world to be better. Most people, not all. There's bad people. And if we meet these people and we talk about the things we have in common, and then we show them why we support the things we support and how it also furthers their common goals, then we might get them to come over to our side and we work together for a common good.
Yes.
That's my thoughts.
Amen. Hallelujah. And that's what I'm doing here with you right now. And
Maybe I'll join you one day, Doug. Why not? Not on. No. But
here's the difference between me and you and the Jimmy Snows of the world. Well, maybe you disagree with me on this. I don't know. I'm okay with saying to you, stay a Democrat, stay a progressive. Are you willing to say that to me? Stay a Republican conservative?
Yeah, but I think you can be a Republican conservative and also be more inclusive. Like, you could be one of the Christian, I'm not saying you're a Christian, but like Christians who are fine with LGBT marriage. You can be a Christian and be fine with LGBT marriage. I think you could still be for small government, for limited spending, things like that. And I think you could change some of your harmful views.
Okay, I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you, Doug.
See ya.
See ya.
PineCreek's just let me in, so I'm gonna.
Nathan, rich people don't need to rape. They could just buy women.
I knew you were trolling though with that. There's no way you weren't saying that to just rile the room up.
I tuned into your show, and that's one of the first things. I don't know how lucky I get with just tuning into different shows and finding nice little clippable moments. Anyhow, what do you want to talk about? Man. Oh, hang on, I gotta change your picture.
Yeah. Just not the sexy one, please.
Yeah. Don't worry, that's just between me and you and the DMs.
I've missed the thread of what you were talking to your previous callers about. So if you want to pick up any of those topics, otherwise, maybe, I don't know if you've touched on it recently, stuff around like Elon Musk took down that JD Vance dossier on Twitter. I don't know if you care about the state of free speech on Twitter, but that seems like pretty significant.
He took down what?
So there was this journalist, Ken something, I've forgotten the guy's name, who basically put together this dossier on a bunch of like evidence around sexual proclivities of JD Vance and what he's been engaging in. And this guy had a pretty significant following, like in the hundreds of thousands as a journalist in America, like pretty reputable. And then as soon as he posted the link to this thing, Musk has had him banned on X. So people...
Was there any doxing involved?
Don't think so.
That's the first thing I would ask.
I mean, obviously there could be, right? But I genuinely don't think that there is. And I also think that that's inconsistent with the fact that Musk obviously has like actual Nazis quite regularly sort of like, you know, saying things on that channel, on that platform. So
yeah. Although there's nothing inherently wrong with being a Nazi. It's what you do with it, right?
I disagree. But,
just you believe in thought crime?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you do?
No, it depends. Like, I don't think you could practically like legislate around it, but I think that people can think things that are wrong and they shouldn't think those things. Like in an ideal world, I don't know, like that you would ever be able to like legislate around that or something. But...
Yeah, I agree. It's nice for people to think good thoughts about you, but like you would rather have someone hate you in their head versus someone who kind of likes you, but then loses their temper and then ends up chopping off your arm. Like you'd rather have someone hate you in your head, right?
Yeah. But then I'd rather have it that they like me in their head as well. I guess. Yeah, what I'm saying.
We all like love and adoration and adulation and. So are you working nowadays?
So go ahead. I'm working. I mean, I was just being asked. I've got to be careful because it's Ken Klippenstein was the guy, the journalist's name. I've got to be careful because the director at my current job sometimes watches my streams. But also maybe I'll be moving. Maybe I'll be moving jobs soon. We'll see. But it's just business, and of course, if they want, they could always pay me more. So.
Well, I'm proud of you for earning money and paying taxes and not being financially dependent. Sneed McFeed said, getting back to the Elon Musk, that it had his SN number and an address.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it did. And like, look, if it did, then I'm obviously in favor of that being not being promoted. However, I do think that there's an inconsistent application of those rules because we can find plenty of examples of people doxing and saying things that don't get addressed. I think the quote, to quote an Elon Musk tweet, he said that there were 20 million lines of code associated with preventing links and things to sites that might involve violations of terms of service previously, and all of that needed to go. And I think that the number of staff has been like completely cut down, who work on those sorts of things, as well as obviously the number of successful cases being reported. And then this is also why Musk's in trouble with, you know, countries for violating their laws around, you know, having people who are like pedophiles on there, or like not handling cases of like child abuse well and things like that. Like this is what's got him into trouble in the EU.
Can you see that question?
Do I believe Doug is a Nazi? Yeah. Do I believe Doug's a Nazi? No, I do not think Doug is a Nazi.
There you go, Bacon.
But maybe he's on the Tenet Media payroll.
See, this is a big difference between me and a lot of people who lean progressive. Is I don't see a huge problem with foreign, what do you call it, manipulation or interference. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think if it was transparent, then it wouldn't be an issue. I think it's the lack of transparency, right?
That's true. Yeah, you gotta. In fact, part of my designation and what I do is that type of transparency. If someone's paying you to say something, you should divulge it. So I need to ask you, Nathan, before you say anything, are you being paid by any governments that might bias your opinions? Like, have you now, or have you ever taken food stamps, welfare payments?
Well, let me tell you, Doug, that I'm being paid by Victor Orban and Chris Rufo. So I've got this non-profit, and Chris Rufo donated $600,000 to it, and Victor Orban invited me out for a meal, and he was very nice to me, and he gave me a free holiday. So
I see what you.
You can trust me as completely unbiased. So.
Yeah, he's mocking Peter Boghossian, for those of you who don't know. Right?
Yeah.
But I actually think it's a good idea to do what I just did with a lot of the liberal callers, progressive callers who call in, because I think a lot of them are on social assistance, which bias their views. Like, if
in what way do you think it biases their views? Sorry.
Well, if you have a perception that what's feeding you could be lowered or stopped, you're not going to vote for that party.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is broadly right. It would just really depend on the question and the consideration, right? Because like maybe there's some political. So let's put it this way, right? Imagine there's someone on welfare, and then there's some kind of like moral stance that the Democrats start saying, yeah, we want to take the baby out of the body and kill it out of the womb, like Trump sort of accuses them of saying they want to do, right? And then maybe there's some people who are on welfare, but they say, well, I disagree with the Democrats on that. I don't think that they would be biased on like their view of abortion by, their view on like welfare or something like that. It would be like maybe they're biased in their overall assessment of voting for the Democrats, but I don't think it would. I don't think it would like leach into individual subjects, like moral subjects like abortion or something.
Okay. Anything else that pops in your head you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because I got a guy who's itching to talk to me.
Yeah. Well, enjoy talking.
You're still dating the doctor?
I am still dating her.
She there?
She's still. I'm not with her today, but she would like to talk to you at some point for sure. I think
she wants to diagnose me, doesn't she?
I think she was kind of like speaking slightly tongue in cheek when she said, like you'd fit the criteria for a diagnosis or something. But
I already know what she's thinking. Tell her I already took a narcissist test with a bunch of my friends, and I won. Okay, tell her that. She doesn't need to do it. Okay, take care.
Yeah, cheers, man.
See how nice that went? Can we go 3 for 3 with 3 progressives and have 3 nice conversations? You're muted.
Sorry, I was getting caught up. I'm not itching. I'm just signing invoices right now. Just waiting
Oh,
for my
okay.
turn.
Well, I was itching to talk to you.
So communism isn't my thing. I don't know how we got onto that, but that's like a fun like thought experiment thing. But it was an interesting conversation.
Do you or have you ever owned red underwear with
No,
what do you call that?
the hammer and sickle.
Sickle on it, yeah.
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you about propaganda and ask you questions about propaganda.
Oh, that's what I specialize in. You know,
I
I'm
know
paid,
that's all you do, right?
yeah, I'm paid by the Russians, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess my first question is, do you care about preserving democracy?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because I think it's probably the best system of governance, a government that is out there.
Okay.
It's highly inefficient, though. Like if you value efficiency, dictatorship's the way to go.
I think on just like a freedom level, right?
Yeah, freedom level, yeah, democracies is good. But of course, it has a ton of flaws.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Winston Churchill and all that. So would democracy ever be something that you like take up arms to defend or something?
At my age, probably not.
Would you? I don't know. Would you pay young bucks?
Let's put it this way: I have a son who's 18, and yeah, I would support him to take up arms.
He's sorry, I'm going to stand up. He's parking cars in valet, right? How's that going?
Very well, thanks for asking. He's
good.
Yeah.
Does that encourage? Has he spent all his money? Is he saving
no.
it?
He's my
investing
son.
it appropriately.
He saves. I would say both my son and daughter, they've had full-time jobs now for a while. They probably save 98% of their post-tax income. 98%? Yeah, that's about right.
That's fun. That's
because
terrific.
they can live at home for free.
Yeah. That's I feel I had when I first had kids, I was thinking like they got to work. I had to work, so they got to work too. And I've definitely changed my perspective on like we're going to set you up for success as much as we can, and keep you at home or pay as much as I can or support them as the best jumping off.
I tried to save 20%, and then if kids from 18 to age, let's say 25, can save 98%. I would say within 7 years, you can save up $100,000 pretty easily, even working minimum wage. If you have good parents, there's no excuse for being middle class or higher in life.
Yeah,
the key is to have good parents.
If you could only have kids through IVF, and of course, right there.
No, you don't have to be through IVF. Although you've heard me say this. It sounds like it. That if every child born in the world was born through the process of,
we wouldn't have any crime. I agree with you.
I have never said that, but I said crime would drop by at least by half.
So I was watching. The reason I wanted to ask about propaganda is that handful of years ago, there was a person who would go in Russia to interview, like street interviews, like in Moscow, just asking people like opinions on their government or their life or
the guy who was jailed.
What's that?
The guy who was jailed.
I don't think. No. I don't think it was very popular. Because he recently started doing it again, asking about the Ukraine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what was really interesting was that like a lot of just like dudes on the street would say things like, politics isn't for me. I don't know what's going on. Other people are going to make the decisions. It's not for me to say. I just want to go to work and go home. Some folks were very like, you could tell on their face, right? They had very strong opinions of their government or what was going on, but they didn't want to say anything because probably they're at risk of some sort of reprimand. Or the inference was that. And so it got me kind of on this like my YouTube stuff is I'm really interested. I find like U.S. like CIA counterterrorism people, State Department, ex-State Department people giving talks, and Bilderberg groups and all that sort of stuff, of course. But one of the things that is pretty clear from like this Russian anti-democratic propaganda is this like exploitation of people, of like exploiting their desire to not want to get duped and just making them doubt everything. And there's a lot of tactics of like saying things like leadership, Putin, or really anybody, saying things like, it's not the fault of the state, or like we were forced to do it, or someone else did it, or things were staged, and just kind of like pushing like all of these various narratives out through all kinds of different means to.
You need to. I like you, man, but you gotta shorten things up a little bit.
Well, what do you think about that? Do you think it's important to be kind of like inoculated or identify those things? Do you think those things are a problem at all?
I think in 2024, any country that kind of bans or restricts the internet is a real problem, because the internet can solve a lot of these problems. So, for example, doubting everything, distrusting everything can lead to conspiratorial type thinking and so forth. But the internet can actually even help that. Some people think, oh no, Doug, that it makes it worse. No, if you are a person who's truly seeking truth, you can find sites that strongly disagree with each other and figure out why they disagree, exactly why they disagree with each other. Then you can find people who hate each other, who've disagreed with each other in the past, end up coming to an agreement with something. And it's those situations where you can say, I doubt that less. This could be true. Because we have people who hate each other and agree. It's sort of like Fox News, MSNBC coming together and saying, yeah, we agree. You can raise your confidence. Oh, people who hate each other's guts agree on something. Maybe it's true then.
What do you say about like the atomizing effect of like social media? Like the counter to that is like, you can find whatever niche interest that you have, or kind of like niche thing that you're reactive against, and probably find a group about it.
Yeah, that's true. But again, this comes down to good parenting, right? So with my kids, whenever they say something that, let's say inside my head I disagree with, I'll ask questions like, well, what would somebody who disagrees with you say, and what would their argument? How would you pretend you're the opposite of who you are, and to get them to start thinking like that?
Yeah, I try that with my dad every now and then.
How does it work?
Does not like it.
Yeah, you know what's scary? Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to go offline for a bit. What's scary is that I truly think some people are incapable of doing it. I mean, your dad might be a person who just can't do it.
Oh, maybe. Do I need to whisper?
No, well, no, you don't have to whisper. It's because we're off air. But yeah,
what do I do? What do I do about it?
There's nothing. If your you can't fix stupid.
Oh, hey, my dad's a good guy. Okay, like
I didn't say he was a bad guy. I'm just saying your dad's stupid if he can't do it.
I don't know. He taught me how to fix cars. He's a really smart guy.
Okay, you got me there. Okay, let's go back online here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're back.
Oh, okay, cool. So there's a lot of stupid people out there. There's more stupid people than there are smart people. And I
heard IQ is about 50-50, above 100 and below 100.
Oh yeah.
That's the rumor.
So do we care? Do we care about that? Should we care about the stupid people that are taken in by various different?
Of course, yeah. I think we should care. I think we should care. But again, you've heard the saying that bad information or disinformation or misinformation is solved through more information, and not to ban it. And this is, I think, where reasonable people can disagree. Someone who leans left has a lower risk tolerance for this type of stuff than a guy like me. A guy like me, because I think I can sort of read something, have a pretty good BS detector. Like, are you married? I forget.
You're gonna call me a stupid person, but I'm divorced.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so this will be easy
12
for you.
years though. I did a long
This
stretch.
will be easy for you because you can talk smack about your ex-wife.
We gotta go.
But my wife texted me the other day and said, I got this phone call saying the bill is, or you've overspent something and you need to press 1 now. And I immediately texted back, scam, no, don't. And
Yeah.
but so her BS detector, she's more willing to trust people more than me. My default position is emails, DMs, phone calls. The default position is they're scammers until proven otherwise. That should be everybody's default position. Same with what you read in the news, and until you verify.
I have that same conversation a lot with the older, like my grandparents, thankfully, are still alive, and they can't. I felt like I fell down to, like, my grandma grew up in Oklahoma. My grandpa grew up in small town Michigan. They're just used to trusting everybody. Good handshake, everything's cool, that's good. But they get a call from somebody with a very deep accent saying that they're from Microsoft and that their computer is hacked.
My
and
dad
she uses an iPad. So that's that level. It's just a complete.
My own dad, who taught me, I would say, skepticism. I was visiting in Canada, and he said, "Hey, Doug, look at this car I want to buy out of New York." And I said, "Do you have an address that goes with this dealer?" It was a dealer. And he goes, "Yeah, here's the address." I said, "Okay, Dad, this is what you do. You go on Google Maps, you put in the address, and first thing you do to see if this is a scam or not, see if this place is real. Put the address in, and it's like some old shack in some really bad part of a New York neighborhood." I said, "This is not real, Dad."
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Do you think that on this propaganda thing, do you think the dumb, we'll say there's you got the dumb Democrats or the dumb Republicans? Who do you think is more susceptible to the type of Russian style propaganda that I'm kind of outlining?
Who's more susceptible to it? Well, I would say it's pretty evenly down the middle on that one, but for different reasons. So the left would be more likely to say it's all false propaganda. The right is more likely to say it's maybe all true propaganda, because the Russians are, as a country, lean, I think, overall more conservative. And so there's a lot of agreement between, I think, conservatives in the US and conservatives in Russia, oddly enough. But the thing is, there's this hidden assumption that when people hear the word propaganda, they're assuming that means it's false.
Yeah.
That's false.
No, I agree. I think what all my when I'm watching all these videos and these interests and State Department type stuff and this stuff is that, or I guess what they're falling down on, kind of what they talk about is that these are efforts just to make societies ungovernable, kind of make it to where there's this, like I was saying before, this distrust, kind of this idea, every political institution is inept. There's nothing you can do to impact politics. Anytime somebody gets something that you don't think they deserve, it's because you're being singled out, or you're not cared about, or something like that. And then using all of these various different modes, right, and kind of differences of consistency leads to that level of ungovernability. And so it's made me really start to think a lot about.
I hear what you're saying, but the thing is, the hard truth of the matter is, some people need less governing than others.
True. Yeah.
And so for a guy like me,
that's why I was asking about the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, I understand. And so the goal should be to somehow get the common people, the peasants, to
Hey, the framers of the United States thought in those terms. So
to be open to let's say steelman the other side, to look at other perspectives, so not just take things at face value. And this is why I think the internet overall is a net positive, even though it can fuel some really bad stuff. I think overall it can lead, like conversations like this, for example.
yeah.
Someone might stumble upon and say, "Oh, that's a good idea. I should maybe, before I just believe something that someone says, double check." And we're all guilty of it, right? Like, because it's easy just to accept what you hear from the tribe that you agree with.
Yeah. Have you seen, I don't know how you take in news. Have you seen, there's a website called Ground News. Have you heard of that?
I think
Have
so.
you seen it?
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, like they basically give for each like news story kind of an overview of like
Didn't Rationality Rules was sponsored by them?
who?
Rationality Rules, he's sponsored by them on one of his videos.
I don't know. I've seen it. I've seen it advertised. I don't use it, but I've seen it advertised.
So now he's being paid money.
Yeah. Well, he didn't disclose it. Well, he's not American.
No,
so.
he disclosed it, I think.
What do you think about that? Like, to me, I think it's kind of like not. It shouldn't be like legislated or anything like that. But do you think people should, or like news would be better, or what have you, if we looked at news that way to see, okay, well, what kind of outlets are covering it? What does the more right-leaning item care about? What do the left-leaning items care about?
But I think the advice I gave earlier is probably the best. Find two news sources that absolutely hate each other, and then on a certain topic, see what they have to say about it. And
well, then you get things like, okay, well, MSNBC and Fox will cover an assassination attempt, and the only thing that they agree on is that there was an assassination attempt. But then everything else past that is,
well, there's a lot of people who don't think it's the first time at least thought it was fake. So if the two organizations that hate each other agree on it, then maybe they should raise their confidence that it did happen. But anyhow, I should let you go.
yeah.
But was there something else you wanted to talk about other than propaganda?
Oh, government regulation. But
I like that. Let's spend 5 minutes on that.
okay. We found out in like the 1970s that chlorofluorocarbons would put a hole in the ozone layer. So a lot of different governmental organizations came together to pressure governments around the world to force governments or force companies to stop manufacturing and phase out chlorofluorocarbons because there was an issue.
And your question is, am I for that type of regulation?
Yeah. Well, do you think that like, I know when we talk about like regulation or whatever, it can go a lot of different ways, but like something like that, do you feel like is a good use of government?
Yeah.
Do you think it's more likely for Democrats or Republicans to support that kind of regulation?
That's a tough question to answer because I think on the very core basic stuff, okay, I'll answer your question directly. I'd say Democrats, but I do think that on the big stuff, like when it comes to clean air and clean water, I think there's agreement between Democrats and Republicans. It's when you get into the 50 years in the future type stuff or tremendous wealth transfer type stuff, where I think you start seeing huge disagreements on the environmental regulations.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering my question, Doug.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah, take care.
Sarah Yoon, thank you for the generous donation. Russian influence controls looser conservative influencers. Israeli influence controls their political leadership and use their country to massacre people in Gaza and Lebanon. Caller will never acknowledge this. Which caller? You talking about me? Did we even talk about Gaza today? Yeah, Sarah, my opinion is that think for yourself. Be open to what the Russian influence has to say. Be open to what the Gazans have to say. Be open to what the Israelis have to say. Then use your head. Isn't that a fair thing to do? What you should not do is, oh, the Russians say X, therefore we don't believe X. That's what you should not do. Oh, the Israelis say X, Y, so we should not believe Y. That's what you should not do. Oh, those poor Gazan people in Gaza say Z, so therefore we ought to believe Z. You shouldn't do that either. There was a video of a father sitting in rubble with his dead child. It's on X. Who knows if this was just, show for TV, but it made the point that even stuff like that can be faked. I mean, we live in a world where it's so easy to fake things, where truth is now such a rare but valued commodity. The kid was scratching its leg as the father had these crocodile tears of, look how bad the Israelis are. PineCreek, how do you persuade a liberal to become a conservative? I would say 8 times out of 10, it's a useless endeavor, just like it's useless to try to convert a staunch conservative to a progressive or a liberal. By the way, I have nothing against liberals, classical liberalism. There's a lot of similarities between today's conservatism and classical liberalism. So in a lot of cases, there's no need to try to convert someone from one party to another. But if you were to pay me to do it, it's exactly what me and my liberal friend, the first caller, talked about. Is you have to find shared values and experiences to become friends and understand deeply where the other person's coming from. Not just say they're a evil-ism or racist or homophobe or bigot. Oh, speaking of Russians, I always say your name Elias, even though it's Ilias, right? Are you caught up yet?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. What's the correct way to pronounce your name? Can I call you Elias instead of Ilias? Elias?
Sure.
I'm going to call you Elias. Yeah.
Sure. Do you think a Holocaust happened?
Yeah.
But it can be faked, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't trust what Jews say, right? 6 million, it has to be fake, right?
No. It doesn't have to be, but it could be, but I doubt it. Highly doubt it.
You doubt that it happened?
No, I doubt that it didn't happen.
You don't doubt that there is not a single doubt that it happened.
Oh, I would say I'm 99.9% sure it did happen.
And you did absolutely zero research about that, right?
No, that's not true. I saw
I
saw Schindler's List.
Yeah. Hollywood movies, yes, they're very reliable, right? I saw this Enemy at the Gates too, right? The movie that is banned in Russia, right? Yeah.
But come on, don't we even have people alive today who actually experienced it?
Yeah, exactly, right? It makes sense, right? Germans, they wanted to murder all the Jews, and we still have people who survived that, right? It kind of makes sense, right?
I learned something though about the Holocaust that I didn't know before, and that was that the Germans actually did kill a lot of Jews, but wasn't for the reason that people think they did. This was a guy who was on was it Lex Friedman's show or Joe Rogan's? I forget. But he basically said that they didn't have enough food to feed them, and so it was a mercy kill.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's not the point. The point is that you thought you said that you should think for yourself, right? Let's just think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? If Germans want to kill the Jews, right, and they put them in a place, right? Can you tell me why are there Holocaust survivors?
Oh, because the war ended and some of them got away before they got.
So they were murdered. So they were dodging bullets for 6 years, right? So Germans were shooting at those Jews in the concentration camps, and those Jews, they were Neo, 6 years dodging bullets. And this is
my thought on it was that they were in jail cells. The war ended, and then the Allied parties opened those jail cells and saved them.
No. The Holocaust was like it's not. It wasn't like 1 hour, right? It was 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Austrian painter got power in 33, right? Ended in 1945. It is what, like some 12 years, right? He had 12 years of doing that, right? He was doing that extensively, as they say, for like 6 or 5 years. So how come if for 5 years they couldn't end them all? Like it makes you think, right? And they also built pools. Them like if you want to murder people, would you build them pools, cafeterias? Like,
Well,
think for yourself, right? Think for yourself. Just
yeah.
like you
Okay.
said.
I'm thinking for myself. Okay, so I actually like this thought experiment that you're putting me through, because unlike some people, they think this is too sensitive a topic to talk about. But so let's say I put myself in a Nazi's shoes. I would. Some Jewish women were really good looking. Maybe they wanted to save them. Maybe they wanted to save them to have sex with them.
No, they were like about the racial hygiene and stuff. Like Aryans should not mix with non-Aryans. They were all into that stuff. So this is
no, but there's examples of even like hardcore racists who will still have sex. White racists who will still have sex with really good-looking black women. In fact, a lot of some of the great political leaders in the United States did just that and had kids with them.
Washington.
Yeah. So maybe that's what happened with the Holocaust, and why. Because you asked a good question. If the Germans really hated the Jews, why are there any survivors?
How did they survive then? Huh? How did they survive?
I just gave you one explanation.
That's an idiotic explanation that makes no
That's
sense.
your opinion.
This is your opinion, like isolated opinion of a single.
We're just
person.
hypothesizing here. We don't have a time machine. We can't go back and know for sure.
But my point is that if you actually go with your advice that you just gave to a person, think for yourself. Like this is what you should arrive to. That Jews, they are known for what? For what they are known for? Lies and fraud, right? This is what they do. They lie and deceive. This is their reputation worldwide, right? Since the dawn of times. Right?
Okay, Elias, you got to Elias, you need to start thinking for yourself. You just said Jews are known for lies.
Yeah.
Do some Jews tell the truth?
Some, sure, yeah, of course.
Okay. What percentage of Jews in your head tell the truth versus lie mostly?
0.0001%.
Whoa, why do you have that opinion?
Because of historical facts. Jews have a bad reputation for a reason, right? Do you know that there are more gypsies in the world than there are Jews? Do you know that? And gypsies are kind of comparable to them, right? Because they are all around the world. They're also traveling. They don't really have a homeland. But people never say really super bad things about gypsies. Yeah, sure, gypsies have bad reputation. They like steal wallets or like rob cars or something. But it is nothing. They're just nuisance. But Jews, Jews, they're made like a big evil. Why is that? Huh? Why is that? Do you know that there are 1.5 billion Chinese people in the world? Do you know that? And nobody hates Chinese. I live in Russia. Nobody ever said a bad word about Chinese here, even though we fought many wars.
That's not true, Elias. I have a first cousin who's lived in China, actually still does. And I shouldn't speak for him, but let's put it this way. He knows people who don't think highly of Chinese people because they're so racist.
Sure, they are racist, but in comparison, in comparison, Chinese people, they have a much better reputation, like miles away reputation compared to the Jews. Jews have atrocious reputation, right?
What are you talking about? Jews have a great reputation.
Jews never have great reputation. Everybody talks bad about them.
I actually think this is the reason why Jews are partly hated so much, is because they've been through so much persecution, and yet are some of the
why?
And one of the best, most successful cultures on the planet.
Chinese?
Well, Chinese as well, but Jews have a very successful culture.
Well, how are you successful if everybody hates you? I don't understand.
Because they have not let that hate deter them from being successful.
But where is the success? What do you value as a success?
Well, I'm just going to go with the stereotypes. Hollywood, attorneys.
Harvey Weinstein is success, right? Jeffrey Epstein, and Amy Schumer is success.
Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David, they're funny people. They come from a good, funny culture. I mean,
wow, your standard is so low. I thought success is like great empire, 5,000-year civilization, like China. I thought this is success. Some great works of art.
Chinese are not very funny people.
Literature. So what if they're not funny? They exist for 5,000
I
years.
value
right?
funny.
They exist since the dawn of time. They're more ancient than the Jews. And everybody has a good opinion.
Hey,
Overall,
you don't have to sell me on the Chinese. I think I love their food.
Yeah, but there are so many of them, yet they don't get as much hate as such a little nation as the Jews. And that should make
Well,
you
maybe
think,
there's a reason for that because there's so many of them.
Yes, exactly. Maybe there is a reason for. Maybe the reason is the Jews. Maybe their behavior.
No, maybe
their
it's
people
because
behavior.
it's easy to beat up on the little guy.
But there are many little guys. You know how many nations are in Russia? Like Chechens, Dagestanis, Buryats, Yakuts, Tatars, Bashkirs. So little nations, like few millions. Nobody hates them. I wonder why.
Well, okay, I here's an explanation for you, Elias, and this is something I know a little bit about. I think part of the reason why the Jews are hated by so many other cultures on the planet is because they killed Jesus.
So, first of all, Muslims don't believe that Jesus
I know
died,
the Muslims
so it's
don't.
only for the Christians. It's only for the
Right.
Christians.
I'm speaking now for the Western nations that are mostly Christian. A lot of Western nations don't like Jews because they're the ones, the Pharisees especially, the ones that ended up killing their Savior, which is
Sure,
ironic
but
because
what about the others?
the Savior
Do you know
needed
that-
to die to atone for the world.
Sure, but do you know that even atheists hated the Jews? For example, Karl Marx, like the ultimate atheist, who was a Jew himself. He was anti-Jewish.
I'm an
You know,
atheist and I
atheists-
don't hate Jews because I actually worked with a lot of Jews and I've had no problems. I've worked with a lot of Muslims. I've had no problems.
Yeah, but we're not talking about like some isolated.
Actually, I had one
incidents,
problem
like-
with a Muslim, but we won't talk about that.
Man, I know some Americans, you know, I never had a problem with some Americans, right? It doesn't mean that Americans are good now, right? But
Americans in general are pretty good people, don't you think?
yeah, at genociding Native Americans, abusing black people, they're like very good at that. Right? Very good at that.
Nobody's
But-
perfect.
Well, yeah, nobody's perfect, but come on, man, there are levels.
The Native Americans genocided themselves. I mean, from tribe to tribe long before the white man came along.
So wait, what is this logic? So if somebody did some atrocities to someone,
I'm
it means that
just-
some other people can come and do atrocities to them. Like,
No,
what
no,
are
no,
you
no.
talking
I'm not saying two
about?
wrongs make a right. I'm just telling the facts.
Everyone fought each other. Like, this is not an argument, right? Everyone fought each other, but there are fights and there are like genocides. Okay, like those Native Americans, they did not like drop nukes
Elias.
in Hiroshima.
Do you personally know a lot of Jews?
Personally, no, not anymore. I used to like study with them back in the days.
When you studied with them, what was your experience like? Did they lie to you?
But they can be like shady individuals.
Like what? When you studied with them in school, what did they do that was shady to you?
Listen, like I studied at school with Armenians, right? Like best people I've ever met doesn't mean that they're like nice people overall, right? We're talking about overall.
So your personal experience with Jews was very good.
My personal experience doesn't matter. My personal experience with Armenians is very good, right? I knew like 5-6 Armenians, amazing people, right? Amazing people. Doesn't mean that overall nation is good. Overall,
Well, that's
I see their
true.
history.
But I just want to point out the positives in life, that your experience with Jews overall was very positive.
Sure, you know, Adolf Hitler, he was against smoking, you know.
You're
he
welcome,
loved
Jews.
dogs. No, you can say good things about anyone. Like this is not the point. We're talking about accumulation, right? If there is like bad outweighs the good,
You're
what
just
the hell?
jealous of the Jews, I think.
Jealous of what? Well, what are their? I'm jealous of Chinese, but Jews absolutely not.
You're jealous that they're strong, that they have
Strong?
a strong sense of identity.
They don't have sense of identity.
They're
They
God's
don't have-
chosen people, Elias.
That's not a sense of identity. That's a claim that they make to boost their racial.
I know. I'm an atheist. I agree with you. But from their perspective, at least the ones who are not atheists, they view themselves as God's chosen people, let's say the Orthodox Jews. And so that gives them a strong sense of identity.
And this is bad, right? We both agree this is bad.
Oh, hang on. I don't say it's bad.
You must say this is bad.
No.
This is racist.
I think it's false, but I think it's a
No,
placebo
it
that
doesn't
gives the
matter if
culture a
it's
sense of
false, even if it's
identity
bad.
and strength.
Man, you can say the same about Ku Klux Klan. They say like white supremacy, white people, Aryan race.
I'm glad you brought that up too. I think any tribe that rallies around a common goal or theme, whether for evil or good, conjures up this strong sense of identity. I know who I am.
This is a positive for Ku Klux Klan, that they're like white supremacist, Aryan race.
It's a positive in the sense that it helps them retain membership.
Is it good though? Is it good?
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's. I'm not saying overall the value judgment is evil or good. I think Ku Klux Klan is evil.
You condemn Ku Klux Klan.
But what I'm saying, for the goal of giving a sense of identity and something for people to rally around, that
who cares about this? We don't care about this. We care about whether it's good or bad. Like Ku Klux Klan, they say Aryan race, white supremacy. Do you condemn this or not? Is this evil?
Yeah, I condemn it.
Suppressed. Yes?
Yeah, I condemn it.
Same with the Jews. The Jews are chosen people. This should be condemned, right? We should attack them for this, right? We should suppress them, oppress them for this until they give this up. And
well, hang on. If let's compare the KKK with the Jews. Most people can't even have this conversation. I'm glad you're here. Like, this is good. Let's compare the KKK with the Jews. You're saying the KKK is bad and evil because they think they're supreme over the rest of the world, and you're saying the Jews are bad because they say they're God's chosen people, which
racial,
which means that they're supreme as well in a way. Is that in itself bad?
If it's racial based, yes, this is pure evil. That this should be condemned and this should be attacked.
Hang on, Elias. Why? Let's say they don't act upon it, they just believe it. Why is that bad?
How do I know they ain't gonna act upon it like a year after or 10 years?
Elias, you're a smart guy. Enter the hypothetical thought experiment. So we have a bunch of KKK members who truly, truly believe that they're superior to any other race.
Sure.
But they never, ever do anything bad to other people of other races.
I cannot be safe living in a society with them because I will always have this in mind that, okay, maybe he will act upon it tomorrow or today or in 1 hour. How can I be safe?
The point I'm making, Elias, you have to separate the belief from the action.
I did, but if there is a belief, action will eventually come. Right, like even the Nazis, right? At first, they were just speaking. Their actions came later, like decades.
I understand. I agree with you partially, but Elias, are you married?
No.
Okay, but you're against. Like, if you were married, you'd be against having sex with other women, right? You're married. You should have sex with your wife, right?
Sure.
Okay. You know how many married men fantasize and think about having sex with other women and never, ever act upon it?
But they probably realize that this is bad, that they fight this urge, that they fight those thoughts.
True. But
they don't go around and saying, "Hoy, I want to have sex with other women." You know, they don't.
But my point is this:
the flag.
You got to at least give me this. My point is this: acting upon that thought is way worse than having the thought.
Sure, but if you have the thought and you're very confident about that thought, if you say like, this is a good thought, this is what I am, this is what we must preserve, right? Eventually they will act upon it. If it's just like a guy who stands at your door and says, PineCreek, I'm gonna murder you. PineCreek, I'm gonna murder you. He doesn't murder you, but he says that every day to your face. Like, eventually.
Okay, this is going to get dangerous now.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the solution in your mind?
Solution is to get rid of this filthy culture, of this filthy.
How do you get rid of them?
Re-educate them. If they write something bad about
I'm glad you said that instead of kill them, because then I might not have a channel left.
Knock at their door, grab them, concentration camp, beat them.
What?
This is what you must do. Gulag, freaking chop woods in Siberia. You think your race is better than my race? To Siberia you go, chop it. Chop all the freaking wood there. This is how you should do with this.
Okay.
Absolute no mercy.
Your friends that you studied with who are Jewish, that you said you had no problems with, should they be put in concentration camps and beaten?
Man, one of them went to Israel. So this guy absolutely should. He's an illegal occupier, right? One of them.
What about the others?
I'm absolutely sure he's a scumbag.
What about the others?
I don't know how their future unfolds.
Well, you kind of made it that I got the impression the solution that you're proposing was round all of them up.
If people, if they say nasty things, for example, if there is a guy who is like, I don't know, he's pro Ku Klux Klan, he believes Ku Klux Klan good, their idea is good, yes, of course, we should knock at his door, we should grab him and say like, what the hell, go to the jail, right? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with this?
Hang on, I'm reading the chat. Some people are accusing you of trolling me. and being fake.
No, PineCreek, tell me, answer the question. If there is a guy, right, a white guy in Alabama, right, he writes messages about black people, says Ku Klux Klan amazing, right? Should we do something about him or not?
No.
What the hell?
Well, not in terms of rounding him up and punishing him for just having an opinion.
You just let him spread this nonsense and gather more following and endanger the black community?
The way you do that, Elias, is you talk with this person and ask him, what's your reasons for this? And then you give the counter reasons.
In gulags, okay? He gonna have a psychologist there, okay? In prisons, they have psychologists. He can talk to freaking doctors there.
Why are you so against thought crime?
Because it endangers society. Man, you have black.
I just gave you an example of thought crime that doesn't, like the man who fantasizes about having sex with. This happens every day. There are people on this planet who hate other people, wish death upon them, yet never act upon it. Why?
I don't, because they are afraid that police will get them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
Yeah, but would you be comfortable, like, if your family?
I just lost your volume.
Surrounded?
You're very quiet all of a sudden.
Would you be happy? Would you be happy if your family members were surrounded by Ku Klux Klan? Like, if they lived in a neighborhood, right? And that neighborhood was Ku Klux Klan.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but I heard you.
Oh, come on, man! Like, it was all nice.
I would say that if my kids who are mocha colored lived in a neighborhood of Ku Klux Klan members, but they have a history of never doing harm, I wouldn't care.
You're insane.
I'm not insane. It's because I have a strong sense of identity, and my kids do too. In other words, I'm okay with people hating me. Let's say I was put in a community of black people who hated white people, but they never ever harmed a white person's a hair on their head. I actually wouldn't. I'd care.
You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts.
I'm not nuts. I just know who I am. And Elias, I'm serious. I can barely hear you. For some reason, your volume just went out, which is probably, I don't believe in God, but God's way of saying I should let you go. But anyhow, Elias, thanks for the conversation, a conversation that most people are not willing to have. Yeah, and for those of you who accused Elias of trolling or being fake, he wasn't. Elias has called into this show and other shows. I've known of him, Elias, for how long? 2 years? And if this is a troll, he's playing the long game. Because 2 years worth hasn't broken once. If Nathan from Digital Gnosis is here, he can confirm that no, this guy believes what he's saying. I got him on his friends, though, studying. It's like, yeah, they were very smart and they didn't do anything to me. I mean, I think this whole thing is about the Israel conflict, and that's where this is coming from. The anti-Semitism because of the Israeli conflict right now. It's through the charts. Yeah, Jamie, he's legit. You must have heard him before. But most people would not stand to even have this conversation. This is probably the most controversial conversation I've had in years. Did the Holocaust happen? Should we round up the Jews because they're all liars? I mean, in my opinion, you don't just run away from conversations like this. You meet it head on and you talk about it. And maybe Elias is right that I am crazy in the sense that I don't think I'm lying when I say this. I'm truly okay with people hating me as long as they don't touch me or my family or my property. And maybe that makes me different. But for some reason, for people like Elias, he thinks that if the Jews feel or believe that they're God's chosen people and therefore superior, just like the KKK members believe they're superior, that thought in itself is so dangerous that we have to snuff it out. The truth is, most people in this chat are better people in their actions than, let's say, the worst 5% of society. My guess is most people in my live stream chat right now are not career crooks, thieves, rapists, murderers. I see one of you in here probably cheated on their taxes, but other than that, most of you in here are good people. And it's totally okay to say, I am a better person than so-and-so. That's totally fine to say that. But there is this fear that once you start saying that, then you're dehumanizing other people. And that can lead to these types of atrocities. AXI says, watching from prison. I love the stream stuff. Okay. Everybody in this live stream chat's better than the bottom 5%, except for AXI. Although I don't know what you're in for. And maybe you were, I'm sure you're innocent. Yeah, Calvinists, same thing. Calvinists are probably worse than Jews and KKK members because they believe they're God's elect. Not only are they chosen for this world, but they're chosen for the world to come. Does that mean Elias says we should snuff out all the Calvinists, put them in concentration camps and beat the belief out of them? Most Calvinists I know, and I know a lot of Calvinists, wouldn't harm a hair on anybody's head. No, I did not say if someone makes a threat and says they're going to do harm. That's different than having a belief and saying stuff is doing stuff to a degree. So in other words, what I'm saying, if you say something, I'm going to do this, a call for violence, these are the limitations to free speech, right? We should do something. And like I said, even on those other issues of you coming on here and, let's say, questioning the Holocaust, saying all Jews are liars or most Jews are liars, I did stuff. I responded to you by talking. Why is the Jew conversation such a sensitive topic? Well, the sensitive topic is, the Holocaust denial type stuff, and the what else did we talk about? Oh, the KKK. Like, for example, let's say there's a KKK organization in a certain southern state today. Should they be put in jail for just being members of KKK? Some people say yes to that. I say no. I would say the majority of people would say no. You shouldn't go to jail for merely having a belief. A belief that you're better than someone. Like, I'm quite confident I'm better than Elias. Should I go to jail? How quickly do you think the line would have hung up on him? Oh, the line? Oh, yeah. Those pussy wimps, wusses on the line. No. Elias wouldn't have got through to the call screener. He wouldn't have lasted 10 seconds. What's your thoughts on Trump's economic plan being estimated to increase the national debt by 5 times more than Harris's plan? I believe, are you talking about the Goldman Sachs guy? Is that what you're referring to, Andrew? Or who said that? I think you're referring to one private Goldman Sachs guy, which Goldman Sachs later said he doesn't represent all of us. In fact, what I've heard is that they're basically, the economic plans, according to Goldman Sachs, is pretty much the same. In terms of, at least in terms of GDP growth. Doug, are you still doing a vegetarian diet? I've never been fully carnivore and never been fully vegetarian. I'd say I'm 80% vegetarian right now. And I do think it's helping my, what do you call it? Acid reflux. For some reason, meat causes more acidity to me than even sugar. Is that possible? I don't know. Sarah Yoon, you've been so nice to me today. What have I done? Hang on. Israel has a party called Jewish Power, and its leader, Ben Gvir, yeah, I've heard of him, had a portrait of a mosque mass shooter in his office. He serves as the Minister of National Security and controls various militias. Yeah, what percent power does he have? Like if there's a vote amongst the Israeli people. In fact, I could look that up, but thanks for the $10. What percent support does Ben Gvir have among the people of Israel? Do they do polls like this? Nothing. Ben Gvir tends to have strong support in areas like Sderot and among more nationalist segments of the population, but his overall backing by the general public remains polarized, with many others strongly opposed to his far-right positions. To me, that sounds like far below 50%. So if you're worried about that, Sarah Yoon, is that your name? Yeah, Sarah. By the way, I like your name, Sarah. It's my mother's name. Sarah, Sarah, no time is a good time. What song is that? A song from the 80s just popped in my head. I know, Sarah, you want to be mad at Jews right now, but I'm not going to let you. I'm going to get you to smile. Is it called Sarah? I think so. Billy Joel? Sarah should know. Starship. Yeah. This is the one. We've drawn the line. Whoa, sounds weird. Yeah, Starship. There you go, Sarah. For your $30, you get 10 seconds of Sarah. Me singing Sarah too. Yeah, the Israeli thing. Is there a solution to that problem? Probably not. Well, there is a solution, but nobody likes it. And the solution is you got to kill one side or the other. Why am I laughing? I shouldn't laugh. I laugh so I don't cry. Like, I think the world needs to be very careful. Israel's a powerful nation militarily. And when you start accusing it of being genocidal, killing innocent people, there might come a time where the Israeli government says, well, we're being accused of this anyhow. Why not have a policy that for every one Israeli killed, we kill 1,000 Palestinians? Policy. Citizens, like not military. What if Israel said, well, what do we have to lose? I mean, we're being accused of killing innocent people already and genociding people already. Like this type of rhetoric, you got to be careful because they might become what you accuse them of being. Because there is this idea of what Israel's doing is it's creating more radicals, and it just becomes like a snowball effect. That the more Israel does in retaliation, the more retaliation comes back on them, and it just keeps on going back and forth. But if Israel said, okay, how many people died on, was it October 7th? October 10th? What if 1,200 people died that day, apparently? 1,000, that would be over 100,000 people. What if Israel say, okay, here's our policy, 1,000 to 1. We're going to take out 100,000 people out of Gaza, civilians. And we're not going to tell you when or where, but it's coming. Ooh. Can you imagine the fear and panic? And then if they said something like, and we're going to start with Hamas's families first, the cities they live in. If we find a Hamas leader who has family in this area, we're going to target civilians. What if Israel were to say that? Now, but if Israel says, we will stop if you surrender, full surrender. Hamas has to surrender. All the leaders of Hamas get into this circle in the desert. If you want to save the civilians' lives, get in the circle in the desert, and then we'll drop a bomb on you guys. Are you willing to sacrifice yourself for these civilians? Oh, I think I know what happened. Why I couldn't hear Elias. Hang on. What happened? Elias, is that you again?
Oh, hello?
Hello.
No, this is not Elias.
I did something to my volume controls because I thought it was Elias's problem, but I can barely hear you too. Or hang on.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, no, maybe it is you and Elias. Yeah, because I can hear you much better now.
Yeah, I turned my mic up.
Okay.
I just had a question. So you had a recent talk with Eric from
Yes.
Skeptic Generation.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, because the question you asked him, it was what would be an alternate explanation for African Americans.
Are you the guy who's going to say it's all going to boil down back to race?
No.
Okay, good. Alternative explanation, culture.
Culture?
Yeah.
Okay. So well, you asked him, the question you asked him was, like you said that African Americans commit 50% of the crimes. Right?
Yeah, that wasn't a question, that was a statement. Yep.
What is your statement based on?
The data.
Right, but the data shows that they don't commit 50% of the crimes. They're exonerated for 50% because they're wrongful arrests. So when you're exonerated, that means you actually didn't commit a crime. You were just arrested for it.
Oh, so you doubt that stat?
I don't doubt that stat. It's been proven wrong.
Okay. Is there anything that could change your mind on that?
So data proving the data that I've read from the FBI website wrong, because the 50% thing is a myth and it's just incorrect. It's not. It's based on arrests, not actual convictions.
Okay, so how many convicted murderers are there in the United States?
I'm not sure.
Let's look that up, because this is something we should be able to look up. The typing begins.
Oh, I'm sorry. I could turn my keyboard.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm typing too.
Okay.
Let's take I don't know, 2022. There should be data on that.
Let's see. Exonerations by this is exoneration data.
Yeah, no, I don't want exoneration. I want actual convictions.
Okay, actual convictions. Because I've several people have been using that 50%, but it's not convictions, it's exonerations. But they take it and say, oh, they've been arrested for it. They don't look past the arrest.
Yeah, I am quite sure you're wrong about this, and I will try to show it. That's not the one. I think I used it, Department of Corrections data.
FBI. Okay, crime in the United States. FBI, UCR.gov. All right, we go to total arrests. I don't see offense charged. I don't see anything past arrests. I don't see convictions here.
Oh, I just had it. Where is it? Here we go. FBI. Crime in the United States, FBI.gov, 2019. There was 5. Okay, let me bring it up. I have newer data, but this one I found right away. Okay, can you see that?
Yes. What is there a list? Is there something above it? Are those just arrests? I don't see specifically what that's speaking about.
Race, sex, and ethnicity of victim by race, sex, ethnicity of offender. So these are murders by race of victim and race of offender. So my guess is, and hang on, maybe it says in the bottom. My guess is this is actual convictions. So jury of the peers, that whole thing.
Okay, but that'll be a guess though. You don't have actual data to say
but
that. You don't have an actual thing to say it is conviction.
But let's say it is conviction. Would you agree?
Why would we say that though? That's a leap of that's like taking it based on faith. At that
May I ask
point.
why you're pushing back so hard?
Because people, as I said, I've told you, people have said, "Oh, first of all, I think it's just dishonest to be like, oh yeah, let me just jump into an assumption that it's convictions."
What do you think
don't
this
see convictions on the page?
What do you think this table? There's numbers on this table. What do you think that it means?
It could be arrests. So I'm asking for a distinction between arrest and convictions.
Okay, but if someone's arrested for murder, do you actually think they would publish in here and then they got off free? Do you think they would put a number on this table?
I don't know. And you said that's from 2019?
Yes, so this is old.
Okay. What's an FBI? I'm on a website by the FBI. This is
Okay.
I'm on.
Oh, hang on.
2018. It's table 43, right?
No, this is table 6 on mine.
Oh, table 6. Okay, table 6. Crime statistics. Okay, expanded. Is that the expanded homicide data?
Yeah. See.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So you see
okay.
it?
Yeah. Homicide data.
So if you add up all the totals here, we get 5, 3, 6, roughly 6,500, 7,000 homicides in 2019. I think we're up to 20,000 now. And roughly half are committed by white people, half are committed by black people, and then a little bit of other races. And then African Americans, of the 2,900 murder convictions, we're assuming it's convictions, but let's say murder convictions, most black African American people, murderers, murder other African Americans, and most white people, but at a lower percentage, of murder white people.
Okay.
So do you concede to me right now that if this table is talking about convictions, then 6.5 or 7.5% of the population commit half the murders in this country?
7.5. Black people are not 7.5% of the population.
Can you think why I said 7.5?
I would like, because I know you said 13 before. Why did you say 7.5? I'll just ask.
Because the vast majority of murders are male.
Okay, so you just halved it.
You're right. You see what I did there? I halved it.
Okay. But
now that's really scary, isn't it? If it's true, if it's true that these are convictions, then about half of all the murders in the country of the United States is conducted by about 7% of the population.
Yeah, I think that would follow.
Okay, so do you want to ask your forgiveness of me? You want to say I'm sorry?
Forgiveness?
Yeah, that you were wrong.
Well, this is under the hypothetical that it's actual convictions and not.
What else would it be?
Arrests.
Okay, but someone arrested for murder is not a murderer.
Right, but that doesn't mean they would.
But this table says murder by victim and offender.
Okay, I see your point.
Okay, so can you say that out loud? That about 8, let's say 8% of the population is committing 50% of the murders. Do you agree? Based on this table in 2019?
Yeah, let me look at the table one more time. And I'm not stalling to be like, oh yeah, it's false. I'm just taking a look at it one more time. Dying battery. That's a fire alarm chirp detected. Yeah, I just got a new fire alarm from a new company. So no, it's not the classic. Oh, he hasn't replaced the chirp. He hasn't replaced the battery. But that's pretty dumb comments right there. I have 2 fire alarms in my room. Okay, so total 3299, black 2907, other. Okay, yeah, I could say that.
Thank you.
About half. It's about half.
Okay, I want you to learn something from this. You came in here pretty confident that I was wrong.
Oh, because all the data that has been cited so far was not. And this is just murder. These aren't even other stuff. This is just murder. So I could say for murder. I can't say in general, crime in general.
Correct. I'm not shifting the goalposts. I'm focusing on murder. You came in here very confident that I was wrong, that about half the murders in this country is conducted by a very small percentage of society, i.e. African Americans. So now let's talk about something else. Like, why? Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? A lot of them are just in a not so good predicament, born into poverty.
But there's a
born
lot of
into
poor people who
terrible
don't.
circumstances.
There's a lot of poor people who don't commit murders.
Right. Like, give me an example.
An example of, well, let's say a white person born in the Appalachians, a hillbilly type.
Okay. Two
What?
separate fire alarms is false, but okay, that's one.
Anyhow, my explanation is fatherless homes.
Sure, we could say culture, but that culture isn't just. It's not. There are external factors for that as well. It's not just like, oh, that's just how.
But it has to start somewhere, right? Like to me, it starts with the home, and it's not like even if you believe in systemic racism.
I do, because there's data proving that it's true.
Yeah, I agree. Affirmative action.
No, I'm not affirmative action. Sure, I mean, you can count that, sure, but
sorry, I make myself laugh.
Yeah, if you can count affirmative action as so-called racism, even though I mean, that's fine if you want to do that, but there's a whole lot of other factors too. That's not for the good, because affirmative action, I would say, would you say that it benefits the people who can get into those positions?
In the long run, I say no.
No? Okay. Well, in the short run, it's a good thing.
Short run, maybe.
Yeah. So they can get into these positions, but even if we remove affirmative action, there's a whole lot of other things, a whole lot of other points of systemic racism.
But
and I'm not making a different argument.
Yeah, I do think that there might be some systemic racism in the African American culture that the African American culture can blame, let's say, the U.S. government for, and that is the huge war on poverty and welfare system that was established in the 60s and 70s, which made it easier to have fatherless homes. Mm-hmm. But even then, there's something about the culture that is awry, is amok, is bad. Because the U.S. government's not holding a gun to an African American's head and said, have sex with that woman right now so you can produce a child and then leave that woman and child alone.
Oh, no.
Right?
I agree with you. I'm not... Yeah. There's a lot of systemic racism, but I'm not going to disagree that there's a whole lot of cultural issues. I think, 18% of Black men make 80-something% of the babies in the Black community. So
yeah, they're really good-looking ones.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Eli. You got a cold?
Yeah, cold, and I had a fever, but I still went to work, so now I'm just recovering.
Oh, no, you don't go to work if you have a fever?
I mean, I want to have perfect attendance. I don't want to...
Can I ask you a question that's none of my business?
Sure.
Are you an African American?
Yes.
Yeah. What... do you think, like... Do you feel it looks bad? I'm sure you must feel it looks bad upon you hearing stats like that, right?
Oh, it's always been bad. It's always been okay. I grew up in mostly white areas, and so I've been called like, "Oh, you're not a real Black person," because I don't display any of those negative traits. So I've always felt like I had to be the example of somebody who doesn't fit the stereotype.
You're like my son, actually, because my son is what most people in the United States would say is a Black man. Mm-hmm. But he's been raised in a very privileged home, upper middle class, gated community, and so it's like he almost feels he needs to wear a T-shirt that says "I'm Black but not African American."
Oh, I don't. I understand the distinction between the two, but I'm not really for that. I'm just about like, what's it called? I think that we should be doing better, and that there are external factors, but we need to,
But you believe in personal responsibility, right? Like that.
Not have a victim mindset.
Yeah.
And,
so yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it with agreement. Thanks for calling in, Eli, and whoever's calling in, Sarah Yoon. Just because I sang to you doesn't mean you have to keep donating. But I understand I have a beautiful voice. That's false. Fire alarm chirp Okay, it's not false. It's actually because the external factor fire alarm chirp. White people did this fire alarm chirp. Yeah, Eli, you need to fix that because you don't want to be, put in any stereotypes, negative stereotypes. But thanks for the donation, Sarah. You made me laugh there. See, Sarah and I, we disagree on so many things, but when it comes to fire alarm chirps, we're simpatico. Okay, whoever was trying to call in now. Because I'm going to take the family out to eat at the Outback Steakhouse tonight. Sarah Yoon, you have paid for 30% of the meal. And we're going to say thank you as a family to Sarah Yoon around the Outback Steakhouse table. Jose! Oh, Jose, can you see? Jose? I lost you, Jose. Jose. That's Jose, right? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Finally, you get on. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's just you had to wait and then technical problems.
Sure. All right. So here's my question. I am a Christian, and I watched a lot of your videos. I think you're very funny and helpful. You make us think.
I make you stink or think?
Sorry, you make us think. Yes.
Okay.
Pardon my accent. So I was watching your reaction video to James White debating William Lane Craig about Molinism and Calvinism and about the problem of evil.
Yeah.
Right. So I was wondering if you think what you call the real problem of evil is solved by open theism. As you know, many Christians are open theists, that think that God doesn't have omniscience. So wouldn't that solve what you call the real problem of evil?
Yeah, I think it almost does.
Okay.
There's still some problems with open theism, though, and that is this even a God left? That because we still have evils. Like, for example, are you an open theist? I'm assuming you are.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that God is so powerful that he could snuff out the universe tomorrow?
Well, actually, I lean more on the side of no, because I don't think that would be a logical, possibly logical thing to do, if that makes sense.
What does logic have to do with it? It's about God's preference, his desires, his will, his morally sufficient reasons. Let's say God had a morally sufficient reason to say, you know what? This whole human experiment is bad. I'm going to destroy the universe tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, God did that once. And,
yeah.
The way he did that wasn't by, just somehow declaring them out of existence. It seems to me like that's not, something God can logically do. Like,
can't or can?
Maybe in our imagination that would be possible, but it doesn't seem like, because that would be very easy. It would be certainly easier than destroying the world with water or fire, which is what actually happens in the Bible.
Yeah, which is weird because God could have just snuffed people out. He didn't need the water.
Again, but I don't see how that's possible in reality.
Don't you think God's powerful that he can do that?
I just don't see any biblical evidence for that.
I know, but okay, pretend you exist, you and I exist before the Bible was written. Okay. And you still believe in God, I don't. And I ask you, hey, is your God powerful? You say yes. Oh, how powerful is he? Can he make that tree disappear? You would say?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know if making something material just
disappear. Are you just saying this to get out of the trap I've set?
Well, I actually don't know what's the trap you said.
The trap I'm setting is that if you say that God can make a tree disappear, then he can make a human disappear.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it applies for everything material, because I just see God, the God of the Bible, destroying things, not just making them disappear.
Okay, but
You know?
do you
So
think God made the universe appear?
yeah, he made the universe through his word.
Okay, so isn't it reasonable to think if God can make things appear, he can make things disappear?
Well, not necessarily.
I asked if it's reasonable to think that.
Well, in our human experience, let's say we can have ideas that we make them appear. We think them out into existence, but we don't quite, can make ideas disappear.
Okay, I feel like you're pushing back on me just for fun, just to push back. Like, I think it's very reasonable if you're going to believe in a God that's powerful and can make the universe appear from nothing, just from his words. I think you can imagine this God making a tree disappear for whatever reason he wanted a tree to disappear.
Sure, but he could destroy it, like let's say through fire.
Right.
You know,
Or he could make
in
it
that
just,
sense-
or he could
in
make
that
it
sense, would
disappear.
be- Yeah, but what I'm saying is not like a magical thing that we see in the movies, like Karabadoom, boom, and it disappeared. You know what I mean? At least in the Bible, we see God destroying stuff through means.
It seems like you want to make a more naturalistic explanation for something when you're talking about God that can do the supernatural, can do miracles.
It's not really naturalistic, because if you can send fire down from heaven, that's not a natural explanation.
Okay, so the point I'm making is instead of using water, God could have just made people disappear.
That would be a question that I will ask God if I meet him at the end of my life.
Okay, and when you ask him, let me know what he says. Call back in here.
Okay. So I mean, is that your objection of why you don't think open theism solves the problem of evil completely, because
Yeah.
that makes people suffer unnecessarily in the flood?
It's because that there's gratuitous suffering that God's aware of today that he could actually snuff out.
Okay. What if God gave us that responsibility?
Sure, that's fine. But there's still some situations, even natural disasters, for example, that God, and I know the answer to this, the answer is morally sufficient reasons. But if, God could actually stop, there's a hurricane heading for Florida right now. My guess is at least one person's going to die, innocent person, but maybe a small child is going to die in the next 48 hours or so. God could stop that, but he doesn't.
Or sometimes he does. Sometimes he does, right?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll even give you that. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But then the question goes, why doesn't he do it all the time?
Well, as you said previously, probably morally sufficient reasons.
Yeah, and to me that's a cop-out answer, because I could very easily say, okay, if that's your answer, morally sufficient reasons, I want to know what those morally sufficient reasons are, because I don't trust him, because I don't even believe he exists. But even if I were to believe he exists, I would need to then trust him. Why ought I trust him?
Why should you trust him?
Yeah.
Are we pretending that he exists right now?
Yeah. So let's say I pretend God exists.
Okay, God does exist. Why
That's
should I
step
trust him?
one. But step two is the important one. Why ought I trust God?
Well, you have, for example, he sent Jesus Christ to die for you, for your sins.
How has that changed my life at all?
If you trust him, right? Your question is,
But I
why
don't.
should I trust him? If you trust him, you would have eternal life. You don't have to follow the devil into hell. I think that's a pretty good reason.
It's only a good reason if hell exists.
Yeah, but remember, we're pretending God exists, and that, let's say what the Bible says is true. We're
Hang on. I haven't assumed that.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be able to answer your question if we don't believe God.
No, you could. So, for example, here's a way that I could start trusting God. Okay, so step one, I have to believe he exists. Let's say I do that. Step two is I have to now trust him in order to follow him and worship him and all that great stuff. Here's how he could do it outside the Bible. Let's say I get cancer tomorrow, terminal 4, or no, let's do it better. Let's say I get in a car accident tomorrow and I lose my left arm. And you visit me, Jose, and you say, in the name of Jesus, I command Doug's arm in the name of Jesus to be fully restored. My arm was crushed. It came off. But you make this prayer, and it instantaneously comes back, same fingerprints as before, because I've been fingerprinted, because I'm an immigrant, and same DNA, everything. Guess what? I would now trust your God.
Okay. I think that would be a good reason. Maybe
I think that'd be excellent. And that's the type of thing it would take for me to, number one, believe in your God and to trust him.
Okay.
Is that bad of me?
No, I mean, ultimately, you do need to have faith to believe that Jesus Christ was God Himself, right?
But I don't.
Exactly. You don't have faith. I know you don't believe in free will, but I think it's a decision you can make. So that will be an eternal disagreement between us. Between us. So I think you can if you want to. Now you're saying no. I need more than Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't think
like my own wife. I didn't marry my wife out of just a whim. I didn't marry my wife purely out of faith. I married my wife because we dated for 3 years. She gave me concrete evidence that she would make a good wife. We would have a good relationship. She would be a good mother. Sure, there's some unknown and faith element in there, but it was based on something real. And so in order for me to believe in Jesus, I need something real, not just old words in an old book and that sort of thing.
Well, Paul says in Romans 1 that what is obviously true, right? The obvious evidence of God is manifested through nature, through what we can see, through the world, right?
It's not obvious to me. I understand. I totally get your perspective, and I actually empathize and sympathize with that viewpoint. Like, it's amazing that we're talking right now if there's no God. I get it, and I understand it. But there's a big difference between the creation and then saying that Jesus rose from the dead and is God in flesh and all that.
Well, no, it's a process, because if from creation, right, you can admit, well, at least some type of theism must be true, then
I don't believe that though. And here's why. Like, I don't believe something came out of nothing. I think something material or energy has always existed, eternal past, and I think it's more reasonable to think that than something called supernatural, something we can't even define without saying what it's not, has always existed, the eternal past, i.e. God, a disembodied mind, personal mind. To me, it's just reasonable to think, energy or matter has always existed. Case closed.
Don't most scientists agree that matter is not eternal?
No, when it comes to prior to the Big Bang, scientists say they have theories in multiverse and that sort of thing, but no, they don't say that there was nothing.
Really? Okay. Oh, I thought that was a scientific conclusion.
The closest you'll get is a guy like Lawrence Krauss, but he will say that nothing is not what you view as nothing. It's like dark energy or something. But I got to let you go. You got a little bit of feedback that's kind of annoying. I'm not sure what's happening.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Okay, thanks, Jose. Matt.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Did you say yellow?
I said yellow. Yeah, it's kind of a family tradition.
My dad says yellow when he answers the phone. Yellow.
Every time I call my grandpa, he's like, yellow, just kind of passes on. So, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. I didn't catch the first half of the show, but I had a burning question in my head. I called in on the line and asked Apologia and John Gleason, Godless Engineer, this question, and they kind of understood what couldn't really answer this. And I was wondering, why does Bart Ehrman concede so much of the Gospels? I was watching the debate that he did with Jimmy Akin, and Jimmy Akin listed like 100.
You want the cynical answer?
Yeah, why?
I think you know my cynical answer. Maybe Apologia said it too. To make more money.
Well, Jimmy Akin listed like 100 things during their debate from the Gospels, and he was like, Bart agrees with all these things, and Bart was like, yep, I think all those things were historical. And I was like, how can we possibly know any of that stuff?
Well, some of the things that the Gospels say, Josephus says, so we got like two independent sources. Like, did Jerusalem exist 2,000 years ago? Yeah, it's very reasonable to say, yes, it did. And the Bible talks about Jerusalem. So, but like I went through the Gospel of Mark in one live stream years ago, and I think upwards to 80% of it's not historical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But like, I took a screenshot of like all these 100 things that Bart concedes. Like, just one of them is just, Judas's death was connected to a field in Jerusalem. He thinks that happened historically. How can we ever know that?
Yeah, well, it depends on your definition of know and confidence levels and that sort of thing. But again, I honestly, like the reason why my cynical brain says the reason why Bart Ehrman is not a mythicist, or at least doesn't give it any credibility, is because he won't sell any books then if he becomes a mythicist. Or even if he were to say, yeah, I think it's like 30% likely that mythicism is true, I think even then he will lose credibility because he knows that Christians use his material. Christians sometimes quote him. And so he needs that 50% of the United States, well, maybe 30% that are evangelical. He needs them.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was thinking, does he concede so much because he just grew up in a time where scholars just naturally accepted what was on the page back then, but nowadays we realize it's actually fiction and mythology, so he's using like old methods?
That could be some of it, like his prior bias background. But I honestly just think that most of the field that he's in is made up of Christians. Some of them he loves or likes and is colleagues with. And so that has an influence on him. But I am very sympathetic to the mythicist movement. I myself think it's probably 60 or 70% chance that Jesus actually existed as a man. So I'm not a mythicist, but I am very sympathetic to their arguments. And I think anybody who poo-poos them, I think is usually doing it because they still want to have some credibility in front of Christians and be able to talk with them, which is kind of a noble thing. Like if you want to maintain relationships, because right now, if you call yourself a mythicist, you're mocked.
Really?
Yeah. In this field of study, yeah.
Oh, field of study. Gotcha. Yeah. So like, as I said, I called in on the line to see what Apologia and Gutless Engineer did, and Apologia was like, oh, so you think you're a better historian than Bart Ehrman? And I was like, no, I just want to know why he concedes so much. But I realized Apologia is friends with Bart Ehrman, so he's got to defend his friend.
Well, yeah, he's been on a show, but I think Paul's a straight shooter. But what Paul, if you ever hear this, the next time you talk to Bart Ehrman, I want you to please ask Bart Ehrman this question. 0 to 100%. 100% means Jesus certainly existed, like omniscient type knowledge. 0 means certain that he didn't. Where do you put Jesus, the Christ, not the Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, born in Bethlehem? Where do you put that between 0 and 100? Now, if Bart Ehrman answers 100, he will lose credibility in his own field. Because as a historian, you can't say 100. But if he says 99, 98, okay, you can have some credibility. But it's probably closer to 80 to 90.
Yeah. And then, so that's what Apologia said. He was like, oh, so you think you're a better historian? I'm like, than Bart. I was like, okay, he's not getting what I'm saying. So then I asked the same thing to Gutless Engineer, and Gutless Engineer was like, well, if I was in a public debate like Bart was with Jimmy Akin, I would concede all those things that he conceded as well. And I was like, what? A mythicist would concede all these things in the Gospels just to have a debate with Jimmy Akin? I was like, oh gosh.
Like I have a friend named Camille who studies this, and he says the best evidence to say that Jesus existed and let's say the grounding for the New Testament is true, is you just look at these type of biographies in history, and the vast majority of them are indeed based on real people, and that's a good solid argument. But if you look at the text within the New Testament, a lot of it is parable, a lot of it's quotations from the Old Testament, and a lot of it can be viewed as borrowed from other sources, like a lot of stuff in Acts and Luke. You can say, oh, an author could very easily had access to information. And by the way, this is what a lot of evangelicals say is how Joseph Smith knew what he knew to create Mormonism. He had access to other texts and documents, so he created a new narrative, a new text, probably with help of other people, to create the Book of Mormon. And this is probably how the New Testament was made as well.
Exactly. Have you seen the YouTube series from like 13 years ago? It's called Excavating the Empty Tomb by Truth Surge.
Oh yeah, that's very old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just discovered it like this morning. Someone sent it to me, but you know it.
Was that with that blonde-haired lady?
Blonde-haired lady?
Or who made that?
Truth Surge.
Truth Surge. Oh no, I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of that blonde-haired lady who I think passed away now. What was her name? Yeah. Icarus something. But anyhow, I got to let you go because I need to go soon, and I got one more caller that I want to talk to.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yep, see you, Matt. It's 3:20. When do I want to eat out? Yeah, I'm okay. I can take a call. Spinoza.
Hey, I won't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, I won't keep you very long. But I did say I started looking at your stuff and your moral philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the hinge or the comparison thing that you use as your kind of like your guide?
What is my comparison?
Yeah, your morality. I'm guessing it's based on humanism.
Yeah, I would say that it's very basic stuff like do unto others, golden rule. Most people don't like pain unless they see a utility for it or a net good. General well-being, unnecessary suffering, that sort of thing.
Well, okay, so humanism usually uses human well-being as kind of like the hinge on if it improves human well-being, then it's good, and if it net doesn't, then it's bad.
Yeah.
And I just want to introduce an idea here that human beings have kind of like two super traits that make us the dominant species, and one of them is our ability to cooperate.
Yeah, vocal cords, talk.
I apologize, I'm getting over COVID.
No. What I'm saying is this is why we beat the Neanderthals, is because we could communicate with each other and cooperate.
Cooperate, exactly.
Yeah.
And so to cooperate, you have to have some modicum of trust. So really, I think the hinge for morality is actually trust.
The hinge for morality is trust.
If something increases trust with your in-group, then it's moral. If it decreases trust, then it's immoral. I'm not trying to convince you, but just think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it. Right now, it's not resonating, but maybe it will.
Okay.
Yep, thanks for calling in.
Yep, no problem. Bye.
Okay, no more calls. I'll focus on the chat for a little bit. Let's close that. This was fun. It's been 12 days since my last live stream. Father, forgive me for I have sinned. When's the last time you've confessed? It's been 12 long days, Father. Catholicism is so weird. You need someone else to confess to? Fun weekend plans? No. I got the biggest contract of my life recently, so that's why I've been so busy. But I still need Sarah Yoon's money. Because, I mean, raising 2 kids and 1 wife, very expensive. Can't do it without Sarah Yoon. Sarah Yoon's actually one of the key reasons for me being able to create productive members of society. Who knows how many lives Sarah Yoon has saved here today? Because my kids could have been, serial killers growing up if they didn't have the support and love of Sarah Yoon. Does Outback in Arizona have king crab legs? Yeah, I think we do. You're welcome, says Sarah. Yes, thank yous. But I know this is going to sound sexist, but did you ask your husband if you could donate so much to me? You gave me $50, right? I mean, you could have spent that on your husband, but no, you spent it on me. You could have bought your husband a smartwatch with that. But no, rather give it to Doug. I get it. Trust me, Sarah, I get it. I understand it. But really, I mean, I don't want to break up a marriage. I don't want to cause problems in your marriage. But maybe you have separate bank accounts. Don't forget to boycott the election this fall. Hey, this is my first election as a U.S. citizen, so I gotta participate. Do I wish there was better candidates? Yes. I'd much rather vote, I think, for Vivek Ramaswamy than Trump. But we get what we get. Man Bear Pig, do you still celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving? Nah, not so much anymore. I used to. For those of you who don't know, American Thanksgiving is, or Canadian Thanksgiving is in October. Poof. My sincere apologies to The Line. The hosts of The Line were scheduled to come on and discuss what happened the other day. They've been waiting, but we ran out of time.